Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight we're broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, consider hitting that subscribe button. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot and so much more. Tonight, we have an awesome show for you. We have Reverend Michael Carter joining us tonight, so it should be pretty dang on awesome. And we'll be also jumping into the SOR time machine, looking back at the week that was Spaced Out Radio. So with that being said, let's go ahead and welcome everybody into the chat tonight on this wonderful Sunday evening. We have Nicola Perry Jr. Nicola Perry Jr., thank you so much for coming in tonight. We also have Tamothman, thank you for coming in. We do appreciate you. We have Lightwalkers. Hello, y'all. Woo family. Thank you very much for coming on in. We do appreciate you. Let's see. We have Roger Murray. Thank you for coming in. Happy 95th birthday, Dr. MLK Jr. Saw Reverend Mike Carter on History Channel talking about the Phoenix Lights UFO incident in 1997. Yeah, maybe you'll talk about that and a lot more tonight. So definitely appreciate you for coming in, dropping some facts on us, Roger Murray. We do appreciate that. We do have Chris 716. What up? What up, Chris 716? Thank you so much for coming on in. We have Kurt M. Thank you for coming on in. We do appreciate it. We have, let's see, Lee the B, or Major Lee. Major Lee, thank you for coming on in tonight. We appreciate you coming to Spaced Out Radio. Miss Catherine Jones, thank you for coming on in. Hey, SOR family, we do appreciate you for coming on in tonight. Let's see, we have... I know I said to Mothman. We're going to give another shout out to Mothman. Thank you for coming on in, Mothman. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Susan Alloway, thank you for coming. We do appreciate you. Let's see. T-Bone. Wavy hand to all. Welcome, T-Bone. Thank you for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up. Woo I Am. Seems like a new name. Love new names. Hello, SOR. Thank you for coming in. Woo Am I. We do appreciate that. Let's see. We have Lars Jansen. Thank you for coming in, Lars Jansen. We do appreciate you. We have Blue Lightning Chords. Tansy beautiful people of SOR. I'm back around. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. This is After Hours. If this is your first time back in a while, my name is Mr. Rob G. I'm the host here. And we get it going on the weekends. Obviously, Dave Scott keeps it going during the week, Monday through Friday. We're 7 days a week here. So I do appreciate you stopping by. We have Facebook user bandwidth issues ? I don't know. Is anything I'm looking? Everything looks good. Let me know. Let's see. Doug Shelby. Hey there, everybody. Hope all you fellow SOR heads are having a good weekend. Myself, I'm officially sick of winter and too damn old for this cold. Ugh. I understand it, Doug Shelby. I really do, man. Once you get up there in age, you stop, your patience runs a little shorter, a little thinner with various things, including the weather. So thank you for coming on in. We have Ginger Turtle 43. Hello from Newfoundland, Rob. And everybody, hope you all had a great weekend. Welcome to you, Ginger Turtle 43. Another new name. Love it. Love to see the growth. Do appreciate you coming through here and joining us on this After Hours Sunday nights. We have Mark Eddy. Seems to be another new name. Hi, Mr. Rob, Michael, and Roomies. Welcome, Mark Eddy. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman Fart Blasters. You already know it's about to get going tonight. Sovereign's in the building, so you never know. You got Tristan Stevens saying hello, Tristan Stevens. Thank you for coming through. Seems to be another new name. Fantastic. 405er Soul Survivor 2.0. Hey, welcome back with the wavy hand emoji. Let's see. We got Brown Dwarf stepping in the building. Brown Dwarf has officially stepped in the building. Thank you for coming on in, Brown Dwarf. Let's see. I don't know if I said Blue Lightning Cards, but I want to make sure that I cover everybody. So thank you for coming in, Blue Lightning Cards. Kevin Kennedy, TMI. Drop it like it's hot. Okay, I hear you. We got Susie B. We have a Susie B sighting. Always fantastic when Susie B shows up to the party. Thank you for coming in. We have a Nicole Williams. Seems to be a new name. Hey, Nicole. I want to welcome you to Spaced Out Radio After Hours. We do this Saturday and Sunday. Then Monday through Friday, you have Mr. Dave Scott conducting the Woo Train. So welcome. Let's see. We have Carl Bittner. Yes. Okay, there he is. Hey there, Rob, and all you Spacey After Hours Spaced Out peeps. I love it. Love when Carl Bittner steps in the building. Or as, let's see, Richard Elmore. Hi, Rob. Thank you for coming in, Richard Elmore. Hi, right back to you. Paul DeMond. Sup? Question mark. Okay, Paul DeMond. Sup? Right back to you. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. I think we're almost close to the end here. Oh, we got Rafin. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in, Rafin. We do appreciate you, sir. Nikki Williams. Hey, super excited to have discovered you. I'll be on the show Friday. Oh, awesome. Okay, Nikki Williams. Definitely glad to have you in here. Can't wait to see you and what it is that you do. So welcome and thanks for coming through. We have the Ferret. Hi, everyone. SOR. Thank you for coming on in. The Ferret. Another new name. Love it. And yep, looks like we are about down to the bottom here. So let me go ahead and queue up some things. I hope everybody's had a great week so far. We're in the second week of 2024, which should be a super duper awesome year. So hopefully we get a lot of stuff that we have not been anticipating, hearings and all sorts of other things. So hopefully we'll get all the goods this year, or at least some of the goods. Some of the goods would be helpful. So we're going to actually, just one moment here, we're going to jump into the week that was Spaced Out Radio. So you know how we do it here every single week. I missed you guys yesterday. I wasn't feeling well, and I do appreciate you guys still stopping by and engaging in the channel. So that is very much appreciated while you allow me to get my stuff together in order for this epic show that we are going to have here tonight. So let me go ahead and get you guys into the Spaced Out Radio time machine so we can go ahead and get... There we go. Spaced Out Radio time machine so we can go ahead and jump into the week that was Spaced Out Radio. And here we go.
I got my best friend Mark. He is a complete outdoorsman. He's been a wolf tracker, a mountain lion tracker, a hunting guide all his life. And when we saw the 10-footer that we saw last year at our Sasquatch site, to this day, like, we went out there a week and a bit ago before the snow started falling, and to this day, he's like, I still don't believe what we saw. Still don't believe it. I'm like, why can't you just accept it? What is wrong with you just sitting there saying, we saw what we saw, and let's just be thankful that we got that sighting? He's like, I know, but I can't do it, man. I just can't do it. And I'm like, oh, you jerk. You're just a jerk.
Well, it's funny you say that because, I've heard people firsthand telling me that they never believed. They were deniers. They were the same people that used to ridicule and make mockery of people like me and you. But you know what? Seeing a Bigfoot actually changed their world. This is something, according to them, is something that's not supposed to exist. But then they have that sighting. They see for themselves, Unfortunately, seeing is believing, but for people like me, I was a knower before I ever had any experiences, it was paying attention, actually looking, because when I got more involved with this, my senses became heightened, and I started paying attention to the slightest noises. Again, like, the tree structures, formation. And I'm not saying Bigfoot's responsible for some of these, but then again, I am at the same time. There's just things that you don't normally look for that you start to look for and consider the possibilities. But for me, what made me a knower was finding humanoid foot tracks out in the middle of the deep forest. Mm-hmm. I mean, is it likely that, I've had people saying, for example, I've had some foot casts in my parents' garage. My father had an old timer that came by from the church, and my father was showing him some of my foot casts I had stored there. And the guy was like, well, my grandson has a size 13 shoe or whatever. And Dad's like, is he out in the middle of the national forest running barefoot?
I brought up the fact that, truthfully, there probably isn't a place on the ground where a life hasn't come and gone, right? So there's always going to be something attached to something. Do you find that? Do you find that you just sometimes run across something totally unexpected?
I actually find that a lot up here. And the funny part is everybody makes the joke, Dollar General pops up on every corner. I don't know if you guys have that where you guys are. But it's like anytime a plot, it's the same thing up here, but it's historical buildings. And I ran into a Dollar General, and one of the people actually recognized me from TikTok, and they were like, "Oh, you're the ghost hunter." we got to tell you what goes on here. And they have stuff that flies off the shelf. They'll hear men walking around in work boots and talking, and they're sitting on where an old farmhouse from the 1800s used to be.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I went in one day, middle of the day, and talking to one of the employees, and I watched this box of cereal literally come off the shelf and flop like 3 feet. I'm like looking over, and I'm trying to logically explain how that thing just kind of went that way. I was like, did the box behind it fall? Did it push it? Nothing. The other box behind it was. So I mean, yeah, there's ghosts all around us. I mean, it's you have to be susceptible to it.
And they're
and open to it.
lonely and they never seen anyone. So when you come by and you say their name and you know their name, all of a sudden it's magic. I mean,
Mhm.
it's real. It is a cursed town. I mean, we're talking like these woods up there, the Adirondack woods. No one goes there. They're real swatchy up there. And if you do go in there, you're gonna see some pagan ritual stuff. You're gonna see some weird. We found some weird stuff in the woods. Again, it's like a Twin Peaks type of place where it's like so local and things. This is the way we do it, and up in there is. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
The thing is, I've talked to. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I feel so bad because I've been interrupting everybody all night.
No, you're fine.
No, I've talked to some people up on the Akwesasne Reservation, some of the older people, and they said, we remember our parents telling us about our grandparents telling that they did place a curse on the land because it was taken from them, and we were put on reservations. And I get it.
With your technology that you have created, what is the distance that you can pick up a UFO from? Is it in the, like, whether it's in the sky up high above, or maybe in one of the, coming from the northwest, east, or south, or whatever direction it's coming from? How far does that reach out? And are you able to tell where apparently it may be coming from?
Well, first of all, the distance that something can be seen, whether it's a UFO or an aircraft or a star, it depends upon the distance, actual distance, of course, but also its size and its brightness, how much energy it's emitting, right? So it could track a very tiny object. Sometimes the cameras in UFO track things you don't really see on your with your naked eye initially, but the camera sees it because it covers enough pixels in the image that it sees the difference. But the distance is a nebulous question because it depends how bright it is. So if it's really dim and 1 mile away, it might be the same as being super bright and 110 miles away, right? And that's so, that. And now, of course, the direction is, wherever it appears on the image of the camera, whether it's a fixed camera or if it's a pan-tilt zoom camera. The pan-tilt zoom, in fact, being able to keep tracking it, even though it may move anywhere in the visible field. It may start out in straight ahead of you, and then it starts moving to the right, and you start tracking it to the right, and it would keep tracking it until it went out of view, which could be at any distance or length of time to some maximum one sets.
Why do you think we want to popularize these people? I mean, you think Ed Gein turned into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and other horror movie characters have come from serial killers over the years. Why do you think we do it?
Well, there's different reasons I think we do it as a population, right? Like we hear about these stories, and then we can learn and we can protect ourselves and be safe. There's a lot of different reasons. Maybe we can find out why people do things and help it and stop it from happening. And there's a lot of different reasons, but why these killers themselves become kind of like pop stars, they become like people, that we look up to. That's sort of what's kind of disturbing. That I don't quite understand. Like you look at Ted Bundy or any of the stuff, they've become movie stars in a sense, and I don't get it, because they don't deserve that. They've done terrible things. It's not like they did anything good to help people. So I don't know why. I don't know why.
Well, you bring up Ted Bundy, and another one much like him would be Richard Ramirez.
Right.
You know, where Richard Ramirez literally thought he was a rock star, you know, because of his crimes that he committed. You know, expensive suits and the sunglasses going into the court. You know, ladies following him all over the place, even though they know they'd never get any conjugal visits or anything like that. But I mean, this is true though. Like, you can't make this up. But you know, like when I go fishing, I'm a catch and release kind of fisherman.
Right,
And
right.
and hunting is still quite finite. That when you
Yeah.
pull the trigger, it's over for a
Yeah.
life, you know. So
Right.
I'm just getting over that.
Right, right. Well, that's a great thing to do, and there's nothing more important than gun safety and learning to do it the right way. So I'm all for that. And I mean, you never know. I too, like you, I would have a hard time killing anything, but you know, maybe sometime it we may be in a situation we might have to survive. So it'd be better to be trained and know how to do it than not. So that's really awesome. But no, I think this Carl Higdon case in the medicine boat, he was out elk hunting, and it was kind of like this interdimensional story where there were 5 elk and they were kind of huddled together. So he picked up his rifle to shoot at one of the elk, and his bullet like hit an invisible wall and it stops and it falls to the ground. And then all of a sudden, these very strange looking ETs come out and float him 5 pills. He swallows one, which kind of blows my mind, kind of like a food. It's a really interesting story, but there's other witnesses of seeing these strange glows over the forest. Long story short, his pickup truck, which he parked, ends up miles away in this bog where you couldn't even drive in. They had to like helicopter and tow this thing out. He ends up going to the hospital. He had some healings, all this stuff. It's a really cool case. But I bring it up because in the Colorado Ranch case, I've got to interview some locals, and one of them is an elk hunter, and he goes out in this Elbert County area in the daytime. And what's fascinating, he'll tell me, and this guy's lived there for decades, and he's like, there's certain parts of the forest out there where he will not enter because it's just so eerie. Like he will not even go there in the daytime. But he shared with me, and I'm not going to give up his name, but he did tell me I could share this picture. So this right here, I don't know if you guys could see this.
Explain it for our radio audience.
Okay, so what you're looking at is this is a really credible witness. He is a firefighter, and he was out elk hunting, and he said this happened approximately November of 2021. He's out there daytime sighting, and he sees a red orange glow in the trees. And he said this object was 4 to 5 feet in diameter. It was 6 to 8 feet off the ground, and he said it looked like 2 bundt cake pans, one on top of the other. One was spinning clockwise, the other was spinning counterclockwise, and he's watching this thing very close, like no sound. And he turns for a second, he looks back, and the thing's gone.
Well, there's a whole long history about National Enquirer. In the front of it, you'd always see, 10-foot alien in this woman's backyard in New Jersey, right? Like housewife sees, and so you always see that stuff. And then it's the stuff that's like too fantastic to be real, but it actually has a real history with the CIA. Did you know that?
You know what? I had heard that before. Okay. Here's the interesting part about that from when I first heard it. Do you remember in the original movie Men in Black, Tommy Lee Jones takes Will Smith over to the newsstand to buy all of the rag magazines like the National Enquirer, like the Globe, and others, so that way he could get up to date on the aliens that were coming to and from Earth.
Yeah, so they knew it. I mean, but there really is a long history with the National Enquirer being paid and putting stories in, and it has a CIA connection. And a friend of mine did a lot of that work, and he brought me up to speed on a lot of it. So I was surprised. I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And so they were poking fun out of it. But it reminds me of conspiracy theory, in the movie with the Australian guy. He was in Lethal Weapon.
Mel
Mel
Gibson.
Gibson. And Conspiracy, when he goes and he reads all the papers and he picks all the parts out of it and he puts everything together and he's like, this is the real story. And it's kind of all connected. It's about where, certain things happen in the world geopolitically and the money and the Senate and all of that. I kind of look at the UFO world like that. It's like a lot of these things are connected. People just don't necessarily make the connection.
All right, and jumping back forward into time as we rejoin Spaced Out Radio After Hours. We had a great week here at Spaced Out Radio. As you see, we had a lot of different fantastic guests, a lot of pretty compelling topics. So if you have not had a chance to go back and watch, or you may have missed one of those shows, definitely jump back into our archives. It's youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. You will find a plethora of archives. And just like the one we played last night, that was epic with Michael Stratt and Jim Goodall. Awesome conversation. So if you missed last night's replay, definitely you may want to consider going back and doing that as well. Now, without further delay, we're going to go ahead and bring our guest in for the night. I've been waiting to talk to this gentleman for some time. He's a great mind in the space. He is a Reverend Michael Carter. He is also a UFO investigator. He is an author. And I just found out recently that he was also an actor. So let's go ahead and bring in Reverend Michael Carter to the show. Hello, sir. Welcome to After Hours.
Good evening, brother. You keep me up. I'm up late. It's past my bedtime, but I'm glad to be here.
I appreciate
tomorrow's
it.
a holiday, so I don't have to be at work.
A great holiday at that. So I do appreciate it. Yeah, because I know you're on the East Coast, and that's the thing with this show. I'm on the West Coast, so it's kind of early for me, but
all good.
I always take it to heart with my East Coast guests. But I do appreciate you coming in and spending this time with us tonight. Very interesting. Like as stated in the intro, you've appeared on plenty of shows. Let me go ahead and bring these up here. I've seen you personally, but getting to know you on Ancient Aliens, things of that nature. So you can catch him on all these episodes. I'm sure you've seen him on the show for sure. And then you have a bunch of books here that we also are going to want to touch here today. I put it on the slide here. So I know your most current book, which just came out, is Enlightenment.
Yeah.
And I was looking at all these titles and it just made me feel something. So let's flip through this here. We have your original work, Alien Scriptures. So that's just a heavy title on its own. We can go into a whole show about that by itself. You had A New World, If You Can Take It. Just impactful titles here. Let's see. We got Initiation, and then the most current work that I found here was Enlightenment. So with that being said, the way I like to start, especially on a first meeting type of situation, I would put a question out to ask how it was, because I understand you're a reverend, but then also you are in the UFO field, and we were going to get into how those two intersect. But what brought you, I guess, into religion and then led you into ufology on top of that?
It's a great question. I always loved religion. I don't know whether it was past life or whatever, but I was, even as a young child, I was always comfortable in different houses of worship, whether it was a mosque, whether it was a Catholic cathedral. I was raised Baptist personally. So I don't know whether that was a bleed through or whatever. And my parents were very religious. And so they just kind of brought, that was around the household. As a young kid, I wanted to please my parents, like all young kids do. But I really spent a lot of time in churches. And so I got to know the Bible. I got to, it was a way of having community, that kind of thing. But as I got older, I started realizing theologically that things didn't fit. Now, this was way before my UFO, I'm an experiencer. So this was even before then. But I couldn't wrap my mind around that a loving God would barbecue people for eternity just because they believe differently. I just could not, because I knew people, races, different cultures, that kind of thing, and these people were beautiful, and I couldn't wrap my mind that so they're going to be damned because they have a different worldview. And so I started drifting away from my religion of origin, and so I was trying to reconcile these things. And then when I started having my experiences with these different races, it just kind of opened me up even more. And I said, well, if these beings are visiting me, then they must have been visiting people hundreds of thousands of years before. And that's how I started to merge religion with the UFO phenomenon. Now, obviously, people were doing that before me. My good friend and colleague, Dr. Barry Downing, Zachariah Stitchin, people I knew, and when I was living in New York. Morris K. Jessup wrote a book back in the 50s. He died under mysterious circumstances, UFOs in the Bible. So there are other writers. And I stand on their shoulders. The difference between myself and those folk was that if they were experiencers or contactees, they never talked about it. And I talked about it. And that's how the two merged for me. And they still do. I think that even though now our government, for instance, is very focused on tech and security, which of course I get it. But I think the big story about our contact and disclosure is the spirituality and the consciousness that we're going to need going forward as a species. It's not just about technology and weapons, and it's about a change in perspective and consciousness.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's one of the things that I talked about last week was how it was concerning. I just have so many questions about why it seems like a lot of the heads in ufology, a lot of the journalists and media that are covering this topic have kind of switched their stance from this just being, okay, we have these crazy things in the sky, we don't know what they are, to making the next step into mentioning spirituality as being a part of this.
Yeah, it is.
And that's how I'm just like, it blows me away, because I'm like, what the question I ask is like, what do they know that has shifted their perspective and now leads them down this path? Do you have any insight on that, or what do you think?
This is what I think. I think when you look at the Bible and other sacred texts, whether it's the Dhammapada, whether it's the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Mesopotamian, whether it's the Vedic scriptures and what have you, our ancestors are telling us that there was an invasion, that they were walking the earth with the Elohim, with the Anunnaki, that they were caught up in a crossfire between them. They fought among themselves. If you look at the Bible, if you look at these entities were fighting among themselves over planet Earth, and human beings were caught in the crossfire. So when you look at these narratives very deeply, you see that there is an extraterrestrial overlay to everything that goes on here, whether it's our geopolitics, whether it's our economics, whether it's religion. And this has been going on. We're talking about disclosure, right? And a lot of these folks, the very same people who were telling us we were crazy, now all of a sudden they're spoon feeding us this narrative that, hey, you were right. And that we've been basically, they're not coming out and saying this, but some people are, but we've been lying to you for 7 decades plus.
Yeah.
That's disclosure. No, if we're waiting for whoever Caesar's going to be, whoever the emperor is going to be, if it's going to be Trump, if it's going to be Biden, it really doesn't matter. But they're not going to come out on the White House lawn and say, hey, folks, breaking news, we're not alone. And we've been lying to you for 75 years. And guess what? It was unfortunate that some people even lost their lives because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Where they're not going to say that. They're not gonna, because that's treason. If it's 75 plus years, if you do the math, that takes us back to Truman and Eisenhower. Not unless they did what Mandela did in South Africa, and they have a truth, and Tutu, if they have a Truth and Reconciliation Committee that just say, look, we're not going to prosecute you. You got to come clean. If they did something like that, maybe some folks would come forward. But people aren't going to come forward and just say, yeah, I've been lying to you, and we've made treaties with these folks and whatever. That's not going to happen. But if you look at, Brother G, if you look at, I got some notes here. I'm just going to, this is just, just bear with me.
Definitely.
Okay, just bear with me. Paul Hellyer, the former defense minister for Canada, remember when he was alive, he came out and said that military intelligence among all the governments knew that they were that we've been in contact with these beings, the United States and other countries, for all this time. Nobody locked him up. Nobody said, no one came out and said, hey, man, you need to dial that back. No. In 2008, Dmitry Medvedev, he's Putin's buddy, the deputy chairman of the Security Council of Russia, said this on a hot mic. On a hot mic, he said that each prime minister of Russia gets a dossier telling them all the spacefaring civilizations in which we were in contact with. Putin didn't come on and say, hey, man, you need to be medicated. They just left that hanging out there. Yeah. Gary McKinnon, I can go on and on. He hacked into NASA's computers, found out that that we've been in contact, and they wanted him extradited. Britain said, we're not going to extradite him to the United States. Now, they didn't get into what he found, but he said that this was in 2002. Now we got Christopher Mellon, Brother Elizondo. These folks, if they're coming out saying what they're saying, they have a clearance to do that. Last but definitely not least, Hiram Ashed used to be the head of Israel's. In December 2020, what did he say? He came out and said that not only is there a galactic federation, that there's bases on Mars, that we have that there's conversation and collaboration and possibly technology, that there's some ETs who don't want disclosure until we are technologically ready. There's some ETs who do want disclosure. No one locked these people. And of course, there's Brother Alain Juliet, the former head of French intelligence, who came out and talked about this. When these people come out and say these things, believe me, they are given license to do that. To me, that's disclosure. And, the Vatican's been talking about this for years, but in 2009, when they had Pope Benedict the 16th, one of the most conservative popes in my lifetime, I'm almost 67 years old, when he came out and said that we need to be prepared because we have other brothers and sisters in space. I mean, that's disclosure, but people don't, because it's not in the way they want to hear it or see it. They're expecting someone to come out, and that's just not going to work, at least not now, maybe later, but they're spoon feeding you. Here's a little bit at a right. If something happens, they can always say, well, we were trying to tell y'all this. But, this is the way governments work. This is the way power works. Going back to the original point I was trying to make, when you look at the Bible, when you look at these other sacred texts, they're telling you that these beings were here. They've always been here. They may have even created us. And they've never really gone anywhere. Some of them may have gone underground. You go underground too. Remember, they're fighting and they're blowing each other up and nuclear type weaponry. So some people went underground. I hope you talk about the ant people and these tunnels and stuff underground. But this is part of our history. And I think religion doesn't want to talk about it because listen, once you say that you believe in life and you believe in a populated universe, you have to change what you think about God. What is God? Is there God? Who is God? And who wants to deal with that? Because religion has been used to control. There are good parts to religion. Don't get me wrong. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been called to this. But dysfunctional religion is used to control the masses with guilt and fear and shame. Now you're talking about their ETs here. Okay, so now people are like, oh, what? What does that mean? How does that? And eventually they're going to have to talk about how this will affect the Earth's religions and other religions as well.
Yeah.
That was a long answer, brother. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. That was excellent. And I was going to say, along with what you were stating earlier, with the people who have come out and said we the prime minister in Israel, for instance, who said,
Hiram Ashad. Yeah, I couldn't believe that, man.
But then you have Admiral Tim Gallaudet, whatever it is, how you pronounce it. He just came out this last couple weeks of the year and said the same thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so I'm telling you that if these folks said this and nothing happened to them, Paul Hellyer died, as far as we know, from natural causes. Brother Elizondo's out there now. Brother Grush. They're blowing whistles and what have you. But these other folk, Elaine Juliet, Gary McKinnon, Gary Nolan, these folks are telling you, Jacques Vallée, we've been working on craft. If they tell you that, because they have clearances out the wazoo, that means they have permission to tell you that.
Yeah.
And so that is disclosure. We're just not listening to that. I mean, I know people who didn't even know Hiram Ashad. I'm tearing his name up. I think it's anyway, or Elaine Juliet. And so these people are high up in government. They have no reason to lie. I mean, this is Star Trek stuff. There is a galactic federation. There are beings there who say we don't want disclosure. There are beings there who say they do want disclosure. Well, that's in the Bible as well. You get these beings who help us out, and you get these beings who kind of just want our resources, just want to keep us so stupid we don't even know we're naked. Don't want you building technology. If you look at Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel, we can't have these folks getting like this. They're going to be harder to rule. We go down there and mess up their languages, have them babbling. If you look in the Mayan Popol Vuh, what did they do? These folks were crazy. If you look at the Mesoamerican, they said human beings, they created us as a workforce, but then we were multiplying, we were getting a little too smart. And so what did they do? They flew a craft over the earth and sprayed a vapor. Okay, this is in the Mayan Popol Vuh. Don't take my word for it, go get it. That sounds like something we would do today with chemtrails and stuff.
Yeah.
Dumb you down a little bit. Yeah. So here we have it. If we look at Yahweh, well, I'm getting ahead of the game, but religion has been used to keep us down, to keep us fighting each other. When you see these wars and stuff, man, when you talk to the average person, they don't want war. It's the higher ups who want it. We want the war. I think about World War I. What was when the British and German, they didn't want to fight. They came out and played soccer, had a little chocolate. I forget the name, but remember they were out there, and then the next day were shooting each other. But they didn't want to fight each other. They sang Christmas carols. Working class folk. So you got the class stuff in there, right? Poor people always fighting the wars. And so when the higher ups heard about that, they said, oh, no, that's not going to ever happen again. So I can eat with you and drink with you and sing and all that, play soccer, and the next day I try to blow your you-know-what off. That's
Right.
from higher ups telling you that. That's
Right.
higher ups telling you that. And we learned that from some of our extraterrestrials because they fought among themselves. And some of us fought with them. I'm not making it up. It's right there in the Bible. Yahweh is kicking butt and taking names.
Right.
Okay? And he's fighting these other gods, Dagon, Baal, Asherah. They're fighting among themselves. They drank. You see it in the Greek lore. They drink, they fornicate, they make love, they carry on. And some of them help us. And some of them could give a you know what. And that's going on to this day. So there's a council, Hayam Mashed says. That means they're talking about Earth.
Right.
Y'all not ready yet. But see, I'm saying Earth needs to sit at a seat at the table. We know that you're talking about us. That's one thing. But one day we need to be at that table. So we think Biden and people are making decisions here, but there's a level up here that's telling them what to do. I'm not just talking about corporations, because corporations are more powerful than some nation states now. But there's an extraterrestrial overlay. Where's all this money going when you're losing $3 million? I mean, I have trouble balancing my checkbook, but that money is going to projects. Out that tax money, you can't just lose $3 million. I mean, 30 million. What kind of mathematics is that? But when you start thinking, like the young lady was talking about before I came on, the guest, that we don't connect those dots, but the extraterrestrial overlay is in our economics, in our geopolitics, in our wars. There's always that overlay, and our ancestors were trying to tell us that, especially in the Bible, because they don't really leave. I mean, if you go to Samuel, is it Samuel 8 when they fire Yahweh? I used to go, how did they do this? Because they said, we want a human king. Remember, Yahweh was the king. Was running, and they got Saul. Now, Saul wasn't perfect. Yahweh didn't like him, blah, blah, blah. But they got rid of Yahweh. And I used to say, well, if Yahweh is God, why would they say we'd rather have Saul than have God? That's when I talked about that. I know they're not talking about God. The Old Testament's not a book about God. The Old Testament's a book about extraterrestrial contact. And they got rid of Yahweh. They figured, they said, what are you going to do? You're going to kill us? You can't kill all of us, then it's not worth you even being here. And so Yahweh went away, but he never left. He was high, he was in their geopolitics. If you read Samuel, 1st and 2nd Samuel, he never really went away. But what happened is the people stood up. And that's what we can do now. When our love for each other surpasses the fear we have of our higher ups, then we'll get the changes that we want. But not until then. And that's the story I get from the Bible, that because they said, no, we want a human king now. Human king for human beings. We're not going to have all these ETs. We're fighting for you. We're doing this, that, and the other for you. We're not going to have that anymore. We're not going to have that. No. And just pick up a Bible. I can give you the chapters and verses.
I'm going to be writing those down. And it's awesome to hear you talk in this way, because some of these things that you have said, I have often said myself, and this audience knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so, it just
and they
lets
said it
me
too.
know that I'm on the correct
track.
thinking path. Right. Yeah. So, and then as far as religion goes, so I have, I wouldn't consider myself super religious. Obviously I was raised with religion, and I do believe that there is a higher power.
Yeah.
Now, with you being a reverend, and I think, and it's perfect, because like I was stating earlier, the conversation is shifting for whatever reason into more of a spiritual realm. So to have you here to kind of break this down is excellent. Now, with you being involved in the church, and you were talking earlier about some perspective or outlook on the ET, what is it? Is it something that they could relate to religion? What are you seeing in the churches right now? Like, how are people accepting this news if they've heard it for the first time, or what does that whole outlook look like?
in the circles that I'm traveling in, not a lot of people even aware that we're having hearings, that our tax money is going to certain, they're like in a bubble. I think one of the reasons a lot of people leave religion, or they say, well, I'm spiritual but not religious. I never was comfortable with that. I'm kind of both, but I get what they're saying, because religion has been used to do horrible things. And there's I was thinking about something today before the show, but it's, like I said, I'm not Catholic, and I love the ritual of the Catholic Church. I love the smells and bells, as they say, with the incense and all that, even though I wasn't raised in it. I was raised as a Baptist. But what draws me to Catholicism, not as a belief system, is that they're the only denomination that I know of that the leadership is talking about. The Vatican probably has so many secrets. We got that. But they're the only earthly religion denomination that I know of that is saying, y'all better get prepared, because we're not alone, and we've never been alone. This Pope has talked about it. I mentioned Pope Benedict. Yeah, they're talking about it. It's out there. Whatever you think about them, whatever the infallibility of popes, I get all that. I don't agree with all that, but at least they're talking about it. So I think that now that the government is controlling the narrative, and it's always, now it's going to be, it's very militaristic, but it's always, we have the answers. We're going to change the name. They're not UFOs, they're UAPs. Okay, whatever you want to call it. But now we've controlled it. Our pilots see it. Our commercial pilots, they're taking the narrative away. So you can rely on us. We'll give you the information. But there are people out there like you and me and your guests who've seen these things, seen stranger things. But that's, well, Michael, but no, you're not a military person. So you have to watch how that's being manipulated and controlled. They've had think tanks with leaders of religion, and some of it's been public, where they go sequester themselves in Washington or whatever, and they're discussing this. Yeah, they're doing that. They're probably discussing, when should we talk about it? When should we let people know? How we should let them know. I like to be in on some of those conversations, not just because, I'm a clergy person, but see, I'm an experiencer.
Right.
So I've seen these beings. I've been around them. And so there's a different perspective than if you're just academic or you're just talking about it. But it's going to come. It's going to have to come. But who wants to touch that right now? Nobody's going to touch that in an election year.
Right.
No, because people want to get elected. And, they may say, well, if I get elected, I may tell you what's going on. But, you can talk to Kennedy, if he could come back, how that works out for you. They're controlling that narrative. And so, but just start watching geopolitical events, and when they start talking about money and where money's missing and where this is going, because again, there is Hayam Mashed, Julia, they're saying that these beings we're in contact with them, and governments around the world are in contact with them, and there's a dialogue going. And that dialogue is going to be who, what, when, where, how, why. And just like we know the president doesn't really run the country, we know corporations run the country well, or the world, we also know that these ETs are having some input into geopolitical and events around the globe. They've been doing it since Bible times and beyond.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I initially didn't feel that way.
Me either.
I didn't feel like they were all the way to the point of contact and communication. But the more I hear the conversation shifting right now is leading me, is just my mind is stuck on this whole them pivoting on spirituality and making that the main talking point of what is going on. And so I would ask for you, because we're going to go to break in a couple of minutes, just a brief, quick thing. Your 2023 as far as ufology goes, what the things that we achieved, the things that they took away from us. How do you grade 2023 on ufology?
Oh, I think it was a watershed year. I mean, with Grudge coming out and Burchett and those folks. I mean, it's part of the natural conversation now. When I first started talking about this 25 years ago, people would laugh. People would say, "You must be a nut." I almost lost my job at the church once because of it. And now, not everybody, but it's everyday conversation.
Wow.
It's everyday conversation, which if we're going to grow up and become part of this, I'm talking about as a species, this galactic federation, if you will, we're going to have to be able to talk about this stuff. And part of that talk is about AI. Part of that is about, can we find another way to solve our problems without me blowing you up and taking your resources? That kind of thing. So, I look forward to the future, but I think as far as ufology was concerned, 2023 was definitely a watershed year.
Yeah. And then you kind of have, based on the answers to the previous questions, you kind of hinted on where this may go with the conversation shifting into spirituality. So very excited for this coming year, but then you also make a great point about it being an election year. So that could be the thing that takes the wind out of the sails this year. I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully we get a lot of activity early in the year. But as far as for most people who look at this on the outside, who look at this and don't perceive this to be a real thing, I always ask because I'm intrigued on what steps we can take to kind of open up this to the broader audience. Like, what do you think? Where do you think we can go to kind of further the conversation with the people who really aren't paying attention to this at all? Mm-hmm. So even outside of religion.
Mm-hmm. I think shows like yours, a good brother of mine's probably listening now, Mark Eddy. I think podcasts will do it. I think that we're going to have to do the work, and we have been, that our leaders aren't going to do. So, this is your ministry. I look at my brothers and sisters who have podcasts, because ministry doesn't have to be a church. And so you're giving people information, you're empowering people, you're sharing ideas. And there are many podcasts out here. I mean, there are many people doing this. I think we educate. I think that we also have to say everybody's not ready for it. And so instead of wasting your time trying to convince, I don't convince anymore. I'm too old, man. I'll be dead in 30 years. Maybe I'll be 67 this year. Right. If I live to be my 90s. So I don't have the energy or the time. For those who need to know, they'll find it down the line or they won't. But for those who do know, let's build these networks. Let's not get egotistical. Let's not fight among ourselves and be jealous of each other. Let's share information. Let's empower the people, because again, if you go back to Samuel, when they told Yahweh, "Hey man, you're fired. You're fired, brother." And now again, like I said, if you look, he's still in behind the scenes. He was in Israel's foreign policy back then. But before that, because when our love for each other, as I said, overcomes our fear of our leaders, we'll make progress. But not until.
All right. So what we'll do right there is we will actually pause for the cause and take a break here. And I will be right back with my awesome guest, Reverend Michael Carter. And we'll jump more into this. I mean, I think this really needs to be talked about in this moment. Very important. And I definitely have a few more questions. So you guys just hang back, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes here right after this. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we will continue in a moment here with our guest, Reverend Michael Carter, talking about faith, UFOs, this whole spirituality thing. And we're going to hopefully get some questions answered tonight. And as a matter of fact, you guys go ahead, put your questions in all caps. That way I can save those and we will ask Reverend Carter at the end of this hour, the last half of the hour. First, before we jump back into this, I do need to talk about the SOR fan party. I hope people are going May 10th through 12th, 2024. Through 12th, 2024. The itinerary goes as follows. On Friday, you'll have myself, Jessica Jones, and Dave Scott hosting 1 hour each. Right after the show is going to be the VIP after party. Saturday, we'll do the ghost hunt with Merle. Saturday night, the UFO Skywatch with Melinda Leslie. Sunday, if you are still able to stay and hang out, it's going to be a free-for-all. So it's whatever you want to do, just let us know. Come see SOR fan favorites like Science Bob, Lala Bright, Tim Senor, Jim Goodall, Melinda Leslie, Merle, Lorian Fenton, Dr. Michael P. Masters, Grant Baker, Kira, Geraldine Orozco, Dirty Phil, just the whole list of people. Come meet Dirty Phil, Jessica Jones. I want to meet you too. Everyone is invited. So every single one of you out there watching this is invited. Tickets are going for $60 for regular admission, $100 for the VIP ticket and all the swag bags. We can set it up. We can do breakfast, dinner. Just let me know. Rooms have been on sale for as low as $139 per night lately. That is less than triple the price of the previous fan party in Las Vegas. It is definitely the perfect gift. We do understand that this is taking place during Mother's Day weekend, but hey, your wife, your mother, your daughter, your niece deserves it. So go ahead and get them signed up. You can email your request for tickets to info@spacedoutradio.com. We cannot wait to meet you. Hope to see you there. All right, jumping back into the conversation here with Reverend Michael Carter, and definitely had I know you briefly talked about yourself being an experiencer. I was wondering if you could maybe go into maybe one or two experiences that you've had, some of the most compelling ones.
Sure. And then when we go back around, I want to let people know how we got into the Elohim and the mistranslations of the Bible. So you just know I'm not just talking off the top of my head. When December 28th, 1989, that's going to be the touchstone date for me. We can go backwards or forwards maybe later. I was in Mexico with my girlfriend at the time, and remember, so I'm kind of disenchanted with the Christianity of my youth. I was not into Star Trek or anything like that. I just started watching Star Trek about 5-6 years ago, believe it or not. I know people saying, well, what rock were you hiding under? But I just didn't. I was just, But anyway, so we went to Mexico. And we went to the Yucatan Peninsula. We were in Cancun, and then one day they had a bus trip. So we went, and hey, Candy Wolf. And so, what can you say, man? If you've ever been there and you see Aloha, and if you see these pyramids and how they knew how to mark the solstices, I mean, you have to say, where are they getting this information? Yeah. But that's not the point. The point was we were there, a wonderful trip. And when we got back home, because I was living in New York then, I hadn't moved down south yet. My girlfriend said, I'm going to stay home. We have to unpack. We got off at JFK. And I said, because I was invited to a party down in Hell's Kitchen. So I went. And it was freezing when we got back. But I kind of wanted to gloat, brother. I was all bronze and the hair was all light. I said, let me go. It was 87 degrees. They were freezing in New York. So I kind of wanted to gloat a little bit. So I went and hung out with some friends. They oohed and ahed and we talked. And no adult beverages were there. Finger food. I love deviled eggs, so I probably had a lot of those. And I came back home, and I went to bed. And I don't know to this day whether I thought I just had to go to the bathroom or what have you, but I'd sleep on my stomach. And so I turned over and I looked, and at the foot of my bed was this person. Now,
Ooh, whoa.
didn't have this robe. I had an artist make that for me, like a Buddha robe. And I'm saying it could have been a lady, it could have been an it, but there was a sentient being there. And about 3 or 4 feet tall, but he had a jumpsuit, like it looked like Reynolds wrap. And tight fitting. He had a big old head, big cranium, and around him was a blue light, like not lapis, but a cobalt blue. And around that, I mean, this is in the middle of New York City on the Upper West Side. And so my whole room was lit up. I thought my heart was going to come out of my chest. My girlfriend did not wake up. And so I looked at this person, and this person looked at me. And I mean, I've had a cop put a gun up to my head, and I was never afraid as when I saw this person. Okay.
Wow.
That'll give you the level of fear.
Yeah.
So, I just got in the fetal position. I pulled my knees up and I put the covers over my head. But when I did that, I heard this whoosh, whoosh, like I was outside, like the temperature changed. It was at the Excelsior Hotel, 45 West 81st Street. It's still there. I was just in New York visiting, and I went to see my girlfriend at the time, was actually became my wife. We're still good friends. So I was up there with my family. That hotel is still there. And when I finally grew a pair and pulled the covers down, nobody was there.
Wow.
My girlfriend woke up, and I talked to her, and I was shaking. And she said, she's a very spiritual person. She didn't say, what are you, some kind of a nut? She just said, okay, let's calm down. Let's talk about this. And so they started coming to me, these little people, the ones I showed you, because others have come. I have all the beings I've seen. I have an artist. I've seen this reptilian. I saw this praying mantis person. I had a healing back in 2013 from this brother here, a Palladian kind of guy, and we can talk about all those. But they started coming every full and new moon, which means they were coming twice a month, and they were coming for about 8 months, almost a year. They would paralyze me, the little gray people. They weren't really gray; they were kind of off-white, kind of chalk white, and they showed me a past life. They showed me an event that was going to happen in the future, and it did. But it was more of a personal thing, nothing cataclysmic or anything like that. It's not as sexy as that. And so, but as I was going through this thing, it was making me look at religions in different ways, and things happened like I got by on less sleep. My skin and hair grew, the nails, physiological stuff grew really, really quickly. And I can't, now that the young people call it downloading, but all I can say is I felt smarter. I just felt whatever they were doing, I was just more intelligent. I know they were doing some stuff with my throat because I would feel, when they came, I would feel like electricity going through me. I started getting into healing. I became a Reiki practitioner, and then the Reiki changed because every time you're around them, you change. And so the Reiki is really powerful. I still call it Reiki. Sometimes I call it space Reiki, but it's energy. Yeah. But I was growing as a person. My heart was more open. I just felt more loving. Now, I'm not saying all of them do this, and I was working on this on my own. I was meditating. I was praying more. I was starting to read about metaphysics and what they called back then the occult and psychic phenomena and astrology, astronomy. I was doing all that stuff. All that stuff the Bible says you weren't supposed to do because it was from the devil. Well, they were wrong. Or maybe they thought they were wrong. And I had run-ins with some entities that I was kind of, but they would come and go. When I saw this man come in, I saw him, man, he was big, man. This reptilian, she made me a little one. this brother was ripped. He walked right through my wall, told me not to be afraid, put his hand on me. It wasn't like I'm in a dream world. These beings are real. And he just looked at me. And again, you know, you're talking fight or flight. So I had post-traumatic stress. Bud Hopkins helped me a lot with that, the late Bud Hopkins, because he regressed me. Gene Mundy was the first one who regressed me. So I knew I wasn't crazy.
Right.
You know, I knew I wasn't crazy. Well, they said it's up to me to think I was crazy, but they said these things were real. So, you know, and then I was in therapy, and then I met John Mack, and there was a group in New York where Bud was growing, we were all growing, but Bud's group were most having anal probes, and you know, it was just not pretty, you know, sperm taken. See, I didn't get all that. Even in my regressions, that never came up. But I was more in John Mack's camp that it was just it was more of a spiritual thing, which I think it is, but it's both. It's both. I know brothers and sisters who said, man, those people are terrible, and what they did to me. And I'm not going to say, oh, but, you know, come on, man, it was really spiritual. No, you respect that. But the reason why I wrote my books was because I wanted people not to stereotype, because all I was hearing was that the Greys are evil and they're all evil, you know, but it's not about that. There's some who, like people, there's some people who want to work with you, and there's some people who don't. And so I had a healing. This guy, I had a blood clot. I had the doctors July 4th, 2013. I had a blood clot. It was a bad year for me. I was getting fired from my chaplaincy job. My dad had died. It sounds like a country western song. And I was getting divorced. And I had a blood clot. I never had a blood clot before. I didn't even know it was a blood clot. I just know that my leg looked like LeBron James' leg. I wish I was built like that. And it hurt so bad, I thought I pulled a muscle. My first wife, the one who was there when they came, she said, you didn't listen to me when we were married. She said, but you need to go to a hospital. I went to the hospital, and they said, my doctor said, you know, you need to go get an MRI. Did you drive yourself? I said, yeah. He said, can you drive? I said, yeah. He said, because if that burst, I had a blood clot from my ankle up to the groin area of my right leg. I went. They gave me a Nexaparin. I had to inject myself in my stomach. They gave me something called Wayfair, they call it Coumadin. And I was giving myself that. July 4th, 2013, this being, but he had a hoodie on, not a hoodie, a cowl, but very pale like this. He looked more humanoid. He came in my room at my other apartment, stuck his hand out. I turned around, stuck his hand out. A green light came out, hit me in my stomach. I was sitting on the edge of the bed. It didn't hurt. He just dissolved like a Star Trek thing. He literally, his molecules just went. I don't know if you know Preston Dennett.
Yeah.
He wrote a book on UFO healings. That's the first brother I called, but it was 10 minutes to 10 my time. It was 7 o'clock because he was living on the coast. Now he lives on the East Coast. He lives here in Georgia area. He wasn't home. So I looked down at my leg. It was healed. It was normal. I had to go to the doctor and explain it to them. And I lied. Of course I lied. I'm not going to tell them that. They were going to medicate me and put me away. So they kept, well, come on now. You know, you were just here. I said, maybe it's the medicine. No, you were just here 10 days ago because they stick your finger and take off. I said, yeah, but I don't know. And they kept going. And then finally I said, look, aren't you happy?
Right.
Aren't you happy for me? I don't know what it is and you don't know what it is. And they backed up. They were like, oh, yeah, well, Mr. Carter, we're just trying to figure it out. But I wasn't going to tell them, you know, a blonde white man came in my room and from wherever they're from, they would have locked me up. But these are all the things that I have a story about my praying mantis friend too. But these were all the experiences that shaped my worldview and forced me to look at religions in different way, and healing and being in a populated universe and that, you know, I grew from it. but I have post-traumatic stress. I have problems still, being home alone. When my wife goes to work, or at night when she goes away, I still have problems with that, but it's not as bad as it used to be. And they never really hurt me once I got hurt, but I think it was by mistake. But I wouldn't change those experiences for anything in the world.
And so let me ask you, so I'm glad you said that, that you still have anxiety over this, and you have times where you are afraid to be left alone, and that's specifically because you may have another encounter. Is that why you feel like that? Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's yes, full stop. But for me, it's the suddenness. And some of these brothers and sisters look bizarre, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you went to sleep tonight and all of a sudden you open your eyes and you're in your bedroom and I'm hovering over you, Brother Rob, it's me, it's Michael. That's heart attack time. How'd you get in here? Who are you? What? Well, now put that on steroids and somebody looks like this. Or somebody looks like that. So, I could be in my room and I could just turn over in my bed and boom, they're there. That's I still have post-traumatic stress from that. But I try to work through my fear. and fear is natural, but I can look back and say, none of these brothers and sisters never really hurt me. If anything, I've grown.
Right.
But it's still that, and I'm in this big house and when I have my party, because they come when they come. I've been out of town when they visited me. They know how to find you. But that's the thing. So, it's not as bad as it used to be, brother. I used to not be able to sleep at all for weeks. But now, I talk myself down, but it's still there. I mean, it would always be there. It's an experience.
Yeah, and I feel this. I feel like that, and the reason why I asked again because I haven't had an ET encounter, but I've filmed 47 UFOs in the sky, and it just at one information it was crazy, but
oh my Lord, it's like a squadron.
A squadron in broad daylight, 12 noon, high noon, clear blue skies. In the middle, I'll show you that recording, but it makes me feel like what is the next experience? Will I experience another craft sighting, or will it end up taking that next step and being an actual ET encounter? And I'm always afraid of that. I mean, in the back of my mind, because I'm in this studio late nights working by myself. and I just wonder, I said, what would, I'll feel something and I'll say, okay, how would I feel if an ET just materialized right here in front of me? And I kind of want to know what it feels like, but then I kind of have that.
It's a game changer, brother. Let me tell you. But it's a game changer. But let me say this to you real quick. They can come to you in your dreams too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes they will try to come to you in the best way so that you don't get frightened.
Okay.
Because and this is how someone explained it to me. When you've had a dream, and like say I'm sleeping, this is my office, and I'm asleep, and I have a dream that these beings are in my house. But everything in the house is the same way it is when you're awake. That's not a dream. So they may, and you can always get regressed and see, because maybe you've been visited already.
Yeah.
But once you open that door, then you just got to keep going with it. And so if you don't want to know, then don't do it. But if you could get regressed, but I'm just saying they can come to you, or they can take you out of your body. I've met them where I just felt myself just go up and they're there, and then I black out. I don't know what else happened. But my experiences have been like, I'm sitting here looking at you, and like the reptilian brother, he touched me, said, don't be afraid. They always say that. You look in the Bible, don't be afraid. How can you not? Look at you.
Right.
Look the way you look, man, and you just walk in my house like this. But it's there. You can get regressed. But just know they may come to you in your dream. And they know how to manipulate time and space. They can give you screen memory, stuff like that. But if you ever have a dream and you fall asleep in your studio and everything in your studio is the exact way it is in the dream, know that you've been visited.
Yeah, I kind of have an underlying feeling that might be the case. I know I interviewed Misha Johnston, who does regressions, and we talked about that. And I told her, I said, I would probably be willing to do it just so that I know, because there's other things that have happened during life where I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Where's the connection? Like I have a scar on my wrist that I talked to her about, and other channelers and regressors. And yeah, it's something that I'm really, really considering. But like you said, do I really want to know? Okay,
I
good.
encourage it, man. I do, because you know what? It's a weight lifted.
Yeah,
it's a weight
I can see
lifted.
that.
It's a mental weight that's lifted, and stuff comes up. Maybe your past life will come up, but see, stuff comes up that you don't need to carry anymore.
Right.
You can get it out. You can lay your burden down. You're free. See, you're free.
I'm with that.
Yeah.
I'm with that. I'll probably do that this year for sure. I know you wanted to get into the and it's kind of will tie us back to your book, your first book, which just like I stated earlier, the titles just are intriguing to me. So you had Alien Scriptures. So you wanted to go over the misconception about okay.
Yeah. This whole thing starts, and I'm talking mostly about the Old Testament in this. Now, by the time Jesus comes along, that's a whole other ball of wax, as they say. And I got to give my props to Union Theological Seminary. I'm a graduate there, one of the top seminaries in the country, and they let me write this. Because it was part of my master's thesis. And they could have said, young man, you will never graduate from here writing tripe like that. But they encouraged it. The whole thing is based on, and Zachariah Sitchin talks about this, and there are people who argue it, but it's hard to. The word Elohim is the oldest word in the Bible that's about God, that labels God, but it's a mistranslation. The word Elohim is masculine plural, so it is gods, and so plural. And you see it in Genesis 6, let us make man in our image. A lot of Christians will say, well, that's the Holy Trinity. But the Holy Trinity is a concept that didn't come along until in the 300s after Jesus. And we're talking about Judaism. And Judaism did not believe in a Trinity. Judaism believed in multiple gods. Yahweh came along and told Moses, and Moses said there's no God but Yahweh. You know what I mean? So that's how. So when you read the Bible, and there's a couple things you need to know. Family Bibles, Bibles for every day, they don't give you these translations because they're for family stuff. But if you want to get, like the New Jerusalem Bible, if you want to get a Hebrew, Greek, interlinear study Bible, they give you those translations. Like, for instance, I was looking, and before I got on with you, I was telling you that in Deuteronomy 32, verse 8, we find out that Yahweh is given lands. And it says in this translation, which is the one I had in seminary, this is the New Revised Standard Version Study Bible. It has, when the Most High appropriated the nations, when he divided humankind, he fixed the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the gods. See there again, you can go down here and it says Most High in Hebrew is called Elyon. Elyon is the name of an ET entity. They're calling him Most High. But when you go down here, it gives you the real. But this is a study Bible. Your regular Bibles that you buy for your family and for your mom and dad, they don't give you this.
Right.
So Elyon is appropriating the nations. He divides humankind up. He gives them, these are your land and these are your people. So you get the people. And so he's giving this to Yahweh. So if Yahweh's God, why is there another? Maybe Elyon was a commander of it. He's giving you, this is your part. You take the tribe of Jacob. You guys can go over here and you could take the people in India. They invaded us. Now, the same in the Hebrew Greek, it says, when the Most High gave the nations their inheritance. Sometimes they'll say, when the Lord, and Lord will be capitalized. But when you see that, this is what Zechariah 6 you talk about. You don't even have to know Hebrew. Whenever you see that, just put Elohim. It makes it makes more sense. B, you see, if Yahweh is not the loving God that Jesus talks about, they're talking about two different people. Yahweh is kicking butt and taking names. Okay. And so Yahweh does scorched earth. He wants you to wipe out everybody. But we were taught that was God. And so people said, it doesn't make sense to me. But that's not God. That's an extraterrestrial with an anger management problem.
Right.
And so it solves the moral problem. When Judaism was in its infancy, they were not monotheistic. They believed in a multitude of gods. That's why the 10 Commandments, which was 613 of them originally, and it doesn't say thou shalt not kill, it says thou shalt not murder. But remember, the 10 Commandments were only for the Jewish people. They weren't for everybody else, because if you shouldn't kill, why go into Canaan and wipe them out and take the land? When Yahweh got land, see, Yahweh got people, but he didn't get much land.
Right.
And so human beings in a crossfire. You look at the Vedic scriptures, right? In India, they're talking about the Vimanas and the flying machines and what have you, right? And they're fighting each other. Who's fighting with them? The human beings are fighting with them. So and that's where we got this from. So what they did was, and I always got my notes for you, because it's an educational. There was a king. His name was King Josiah, right? King Josiah, he ruled when he was 8 years old. His grandfather was King Hezekiah. They were Yahwist. In other words, they worshiped Yahweh. And when you go read the book of Jeremiah, and they're lamenting, because what they're saying is, you don't worship Baal. There are no other gods before me. You don't depict them. You don't bow down to them. You don't talk to them, because they're mentioned in there. The woman Asherah, okay, who's supposed to have been Yahweh's consort. There were altars all over to Asherah. They liked Asherah better than they liked Yahweh. And so Josiah was saying he was doing what his grandfather did. They tore down all the temples to these other priests. They tore down anything that showed an allegiance to anybody but Yahweh. You can read Jeremiah, and he's lamenting. He's angry. Why are y'all? But Yahweh, they didn't like Yahweh. So what they did was they tried to make they wanted to erase all these other gods. So it's gonna be one God, Yahweh, one high priest, one temple, Jerusalem, one economy. It's easier to govern that way, like they do today. There's one high priest, there's one president, there's one prime minister, there's one God, there's one temple. We see it in Roman time. There's the emperor, there's God, there's the emperor. You can see where these bloodlines come in now too. There's God, there's the emperor, then there's these senators and whatever, and then at the bottom there's you and me and maybe some priests. That's where we get that hierarchy from. And if you look at the Vedic scriptures, if you look at the king's list of Samaria, that's why you see all these names, and these beings, these kings ruled for some of them 200,000 years. They weren't human.
Right.
Then you had demigods or hybrids. So they made love to earth women, or either they genetically engineered. So you got people ruling. Gilgamesh is a hybrid. So you got half human, half God people ruling, and then they leave. But now when humans are ruling, who are they going to rule like? They're going to rule like the extraterrestrials rule. They're going to rule like that. So there's priests, there's people. I got more power, you don't. And some of them taught us how to make beer. If you look at Enoch, taught us astrology, astronomy, taught us how to make some weapons, taught us sanitation, what plants were good and what plants were poisonous. All this stuff. So now you learn how to live in cities.
Mm-hmm.
Now you learn how to live in cities. And we see now that civilization, Göbekli Tepe, that there have been civilizations have come and gone that we don't even know about yet. But what happens when you do that? Now you got banking, right? So now you got people who have the money and people who don't, right? Now you got commerce, all right? So now this is how you make roads. This is how you make beer. This is how. So we got some good things from them, but it changes the structure. Now it's city living, banking. I got money, you don't. So now you come to me. These are the high priests. So now these people have power and these people don't. So you see where we are, and you see where it goes even to today.
Yeah.
Okay, because we got that from the gods, and that's that pure bloodline we want to keep. And people today, they want to keep their bloodlines pure. Just because that's just racism, but it's because they say I can trace my lineage back to these gods. Is it starting to make sense what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and I'm just tripping on how, even like if you were to rewrite the Bible starting from just today, if today was day one of this new Bible that you were writing, a lot of the same things would end up in that new Bible, because it's a lot of the same things that are still occurring today that they're describing back then. So pretty awesome, pretty outstanding. And I'm just now getting into recently have gotten into like the Sumerians and the Anunnaki, trying to go back to the beginning and figure this whole thing out. So that's helpful for me for sure.
Yeah. Listen, because they talked about it. They're not talking about God. They're not talking about there's a big God out there. They're just saying these beings were here. And so you read, if you go back to the Cherokee, they're talking about the Palladians. They come from there. If you're talking about the Vedic scriptures, if you're talking about, we see it in the Greek lore. They call them Titans, you know what I mean? Because they were big. And so here we have, and Genesis goes into it as well, Genesis is pretty much the story. It's the Hebrew version, a shortened version of the Mesopotamian, Akkadian, Babylonian tales. Plato talked about and Plato said he got his information from a priest in Egypt who said he got his information from Atlantis. Go back and read your Plato. Plato says that every 5,000 years there's some type of cataclysm that happens where there's a reboot. Maybe we're living in a time now where there is a reboot. When you look at Genesis, the story of Genesis, it's a creation story, but guess what? The earth is already there. The earth is void and there are waters. So these beings come, and what do? They separate, they start terraforming. They separate the dry land from the salt water. And this is the fresh water. But it's not gods, it's the Elohim. It's translated as the Lord as God, but no, it's the Elohim. So if they're separating the waters, right? They're separating the dry land and the waters. That to me sounds like there was a cataclysm before they came.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Because we've had cataclysms before. Plato talks about it. We've had Atlantis. Some people can go on Lemuria. There's always something, or maybe a comet hits you. There's always something and so there's a reboot. There's a reboot.
Oh man. So who's in control right now if you had to take a guess? You've had encounters with these different beings. Which one of these are the front runners, or probably the ones leading the show, if you had to guess?
Well, I want to say it's not, it's not. I give an example. People think that the blonde, blue-eyed Palladians are angelic, and a lot of them are. But there's also stories of a band of Palladians who aren't. So it's not like which one group, but there's that galactic federation that Chaim Mashed said. We don't know who's at the table, but we do know that there's some folks who want to see where this experiment goes, and there's some folks who say we just want the resources. They're too warlike, that kind of thing. So, just like if you go to Congress, right? There's some people in Congress and the Pentagon who want disclosure, and there's some people in Congress who say, no, we need to keep this stuff secret. So I can't say there's one race. Let's say there are 20 Palladians. Let's say maybe 3 of those Palladians say, we have no use for these people. And then maybe there's the other 7 who say, well, let's work it out. Let's see. But what I can tell you is this: the people you think who are calling shots, there's always someone above them calling shots. And I think a lot, if all these countries, France, China, Russia, if all of them and other countries, if they all have sitting at a table having these conversations, then that tells you that there is an extraterrestrial overlay to everything that goes on this planet. That's what our Bible people were telling us, at least in the Old Testament. Like I said, when Jesus comes along, that's another dynamic. But we're not talking about the New Testament now. We're talking about the First Testament. We're talking, and it's nothing but UFO. That the Old Testament is not a book about God. And as long as you can read it that way, because if you read it any other way, if you read it as a book about God, you come away confused. It doesn't make sense, because where's this loving, omnipotent, omniscient being? You don't see that. You see Yahweh angry, warlike, giving you a bunch of rules. You got to be circumcised. You can't intermarry. You can't do this. But if you read it as a book of stories, you can still get lessons from it, life lessons from it. But if you read it not as a book about God, but a book about our ancestors talking about we were in contact with beings, it makes more sense.
And with that being said, do you think that part of the ontological shock that they talk about, and especially them leading more into this being spirituality, do you think that one of the concerns is that one of the actual concerns is that these ETs disclose to us that fact that you're stating now, that this book is actually a record of like, this was us. Like, this is talking about us. This isn't talking about, okay.
It's a great question. I think it's partly that, because again, religion has been used to control. And once you start thinking for yourself, once you start saying, for instance, you know what, I'm not just an American, I'm a citizen of the universe. I'm not just a Republican, I'm not just a Democrat, I'm so much bigger than that, then you become harder to control. You become a nuisance.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And again, it goes back to, it reminds me, if you get a chance, go see the Book of Clarence. I saw it last night.
Okay.
Anyway, you heard of the movie. Yeah, Anyway, it's the same thing. How is it easy to govern? Again, we're going to have one God, Yahweh. We're going to have one temple in Jerusalem. We're going to have one high priest. And so it's just easier to govern that way. It's just easier to control people. It's just, your resources and stuff just have to come through one thing. It's just easier. And that's what we do today. There's this hierarchy. And I'm not going to make excuses, but we learn that from those beings, the bitter and the sweet. This is how you govern. This is how, and they left their mark here. They ruled, and then some of them left, but they ruled, and then they you know what it's like? It's like when you go on shore leave, if you're in the military, and you go and you fall in love with one of the natives, or you start mingling with the culture. They don't want you to do that here. You're not supposed to be laying down with these earth women. You're not supposed to be doing that. This is for strategic reasons. And some of them said, no, this is what we want to do, but that causes confusion. That's what the book of Enoch is about. It talks about these fallen angels who come down and mate with the earth women and have children by them, and it got out of hand. But they also taught good things. They also taught things that made us move forward as a species.
That is awesome. Let me go ahead and bring this back up here, and then maybe you can give brief synopsis of the direction you went in these books. So Alien Scriptures, is that based on what we just went over, or is it?
No, this is all new stuff. What Alien Scriptures is about is just the fact, and I don't mean just to trivialize it, that we are not alone, that Yahweh's not God, that when Jesus comes along, he's talking about a different God whom he calls his Father, which I speculate, I argue, was an extraterrestrial, because if your dad's not human and your mother is, that means you're not fully human. Right. But that's what, and it's a biblical treatise. I go through Bible verses to support my thesis.
Okay, and then
that's what that's about. This is a little, I would almost call it a part two. I give you both Catholic, there's a lot of Bible stuff in there, but I give you Catholic, Protestant. I give you figures in history, pardon me, who came out and said that we live in a populated universe and that we need to rethink what God is, pardon me, if we're going to evolve. And so it'll be a new world. It'll be a new world if you can take it. I got that title from Lieutenant Corso, who wrote The Day After Roswell. He said that he saw an ET in the desert in Nevada. And the ET said, look, I don't want trouble. Give me a head start. I'll be out of your hair. And so Lieutenant Corso says, I could do that. But what do I get out of that? And the extraterrestrial allegedly says, this is his story. He says, a new world if you can take it.
Yeah. That's heavy right there, because I think we're really in a situation where you don't have a choice. You're going to have to come to the realization that this is what's going on. And the further you jump into the story or into the rabbit hole, because we still don't have all the answers, it becomes more and more, it's dramatic and also compelling at the same time.
Well, it also makes you grow up, brother, because remember Arthur C. Clarke's movie Childhood's End, and Earth had to grow up. You had to put the childish things behind you.
Yeah.
That's the end of childhood now. You got to put your big boy pants on.
Yeah.
Got to put your big girl pants on. Because you're not alone. Initiation was, I wrote 2 books before this. But one was on prayer and meditation, and another book is a meditation manual called God Consciousness. This book is a handbook for experiences. It's for people who think they have experiences and are not sure. It's for people who have loved ones who've had experiences, but they're not sure. And to me, I call it initiation, because once you've been visited, you've been initiated, and it does change you. It changed you spiritually. Pardon me, it's just dry down here. And so I give you stories of other experiences in this. I also give you guideposts. If you have any of these characteristics, you may have been visited.
Mm-hmm.
So they're physical characteristics for your dreams. And if you have any of those, you may want to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
And then you have
and Enlightenment just came out. That's a book of sermons. That just came out last month. It's a book of sermons on social justice, on religion, on race, on philosophy, and it's about our oneness. And that once you get that, whether you're no matter how thick your lips are or how straight your hair is or what pigmentation your skin is, once you get that we all come from the same source, and we go back to that source. And that doesn't have anything to do with religion per se, even though it does. But you can be an atheist, and we come from a source and we go back to that, because as Einstein reminds us, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed.
Yeah.
And so this is I love it. I love it. And you can see the quote there. Enlightenment is when a wave realizes it's part of the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. I love
And
that.
I'll just show you real quick, because I got you here and I always keep stuff close by. This book is called God Consciousness. It's a meditation manual, 30-day journey to achieve God-centered thinking. And you can put any words you want there. It doesn't have to be God. You can put the force, you can put the universe, what have you. So don't let the title scare you. It's a very broad definition of what God is. And because I'm a healer and I believe in affirmative prayer, this is called The Metaphysics of Spiritual Healing and the Power of Affirmative Prayer. All of these can be purchased on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. And you can always reach out to me. My email is michaeljs.carter@gmail.com. I have a Facebook fan page, Reverend Michael J. Carter. You can I will always answer you. I don't do my blog, but that's Michael J.S. Carter. But Facebook is Reverend Michael J. Carter. I also have a page, Michael J. Carter. Email me, whatever, and we can talk. But I strongly suggest, just to look at the books, and I think there'll be something in there for you.
Yeah. I was, it resonated every title. I felt something from. I mean, I think you picked the perfect title for these books. And I'm ready for this regression. So I'm just so glad that we have someone like you doing this in this field, because this field needs it. The being a part of one, realizing that you're part of the ocean, the one wave is part of the whole ocean, is a really big thing. And I preach that. I really preach that.
Well, you live it. I mean, look at your guests. Look at the diversity. It's not just about skin color. That helps. But diversity is diversity of ideas. It's diversity in age. You know what I mean? It's that's what and you don't have to be afraid of one another. Diversity doesn't mean divisive. But you got some people who may not, well, Michael, I don't believe in that. And that's okay. We can still coexist. You got your Bigfoot people on. You got people, ghost hunters, but to keep us separated from each other is how we're ruled.
Yes.
So if I can keep you angry because who I sleep with, or these petty things, who I vote for, if I can keep you separated like that, then I can keep you from that you're part of something bigger. Because once you get it that you're part of something bigger, I can't control you. You wind up being a nuisance.
Speak, man, it's just nothing truer said. I say that all the time. I tell people, I say with the powers that are controlling the show here, they love the fact that we're segregated and separated.
Yeah.
Then the moment that they see any mobilization happen on a larger scale, that's when they're going to start attacking and try to, thwart the movement. But the movement is something that we have to have in order to usher us into this next level of whatever happens after this disclosure or confirmation, whatever you want to call it. So that is awesome. I love that that's your mind state, because it just revalidates the things that I think and I say, and I don't like to say things that are reckless. So just to know that I'm on that right path is cool for me.
No, of course, brother. We affirm each other, but just know more people, like I said at the beginning, I remember I was in Israel many, many years ago, man, and I was in Jerusalem for a week. And I met people, man, they were interracial marriages. They were Jews with Christians. They were Egyptian. And these people have been married and they got along and they went, and it's the governments, man. It's the governments, whether it's Egypt or here, because they're the ones that have the quarrels. Most people just want to get along, man. I moved from New York City. I live in the South now, which I thought I'd never do. And I live in Appalachia. I live in the Appalachian Mountains and in North Carolina. And, people come together. It's not like the old South, that you still have those mindsets. I'm not trying to downplay that. But, people, I try to tell some rural brothers, you have more in common with me than you have with Mitt Romney.
Right.
But you were taught that you don't.
Right.
You were taught that you don't. You were taught that I'm your enemy. And I was taught that too, but you're not. You're not my enemy. We need to be talking. We need you have more in common with me. And so but that's dangerous. And you don't have to look, when you go back and look at the stories of Jesus or Buddha or Joan of Arc or they say, well, look at Jesus. That's my brother. Jesus lived in empire like we do now. He lived in the Roman Empire. They play hardball like we do now. He didn't say, I know how to overthrow this. He didn't say, I can stop all the poor. Remember, he said, the poor you're going to have with you always. He just said, like Buddha said 500 years before him and Christian before, I can give you some tools that you can navigate.
Right.
And that they can't take that from you. Rome can't take it from you. US can't take it from you. Egypt can't take it from you. Europe can't. That there's some tools. And you got to cultivate your spiritual life. That was it. He didn't fix it.
Right.
Buddha didn't fix it. He just, you don't have to read. And people say, well, how do you do it? Spend some time in nature. Make sure you get some quiet time. Spend some time alone. Study, read, always be quiet. Always have a prayer life. Even if you don't believe in God, then just have some quiet time. You don't have to go to church. Nature can be your church.
Right.
It doesn't have to be either or. It can be both in. But then you start hearing that voice that's inside you. And it will always lead you where you need to go. And that's just the work. You got to put the work in. There's no easy formula. But they lived in empire wars and rumors of war. They were putting crosses on the side of the road in Palestine. And so you can go back to those teachings. Or whoever, Muhammad, you can go anywhere you want. Go back to Native American teachings, how to live on the land, how to be one with, how to listen. Whatever your deal is. But those are the tools. And they've served our ancestors well. And they've passed it on.
All right. I'm going to get into, we got like two questions here. One question is from T-Bone. And what is Reverend Carter's take on the Mount of Transfiguration, i.e. light beings, time travel?
Well, that's a big question. The transfiguration, I think that Jesus was a hybrid individual, and he's seeing Elijah and he's seeing Moses. Elijah is taken up in a chariot, which I call a ship, and Jesus winds up leaving, which probably on a ship. Moses, of course, is in touch with Yahweh. We don't today to this day know where he is buried or what have you. So I'm thinking that there is time travel. Remember, we don't know if Moses really died or not. He could have been taken, but we know Elijah didn't die. So by them being able to come to Jesus, and if I'm not mistaken, they're coming to him because Jesus's mission is almost over. He's praying, and he's getting closer to Jerusalem. So these beings do manipulate time. And I think that was one of the things Chaim Mashed said, that until we find out really what space and time is, that there will not be disclosure. So I think they're tied in. I think that's a wonderful question. I hope I answered some of it for you.
Definitely. We have Kim Jellin asking, why do you think you see beings but someone else does not?
I think that I know you're not implying this, but Kim, but it's not a competition, because other people may have gifts or seen things that I don't. I was told by a psychic that my connection with these folks was in another life, that I interacted with them, and I'm on this particular planet at this particular time, and there's things that I need to do. Some of them I'm public about, some of them are just between me and them. So that's why I think it is, but we all have our different gifts. I know people who have some experiences that I don't have, and like Paul says in Corinthians, we all have our gifts. I think my contacts have been a gift to me for the most part, but that's the best answer I can give. I don't know why other people don't.
All right. Another question here we got from Pix asking, has Reverend Carter met Chris Bledsoe yet, or Paul Wallace?
I haven't met Paul Wallace, but I know of Paul. I know about Chris's book, and it's nice to have those voices out there. So I haven't met them, but I know of them. I know Brother Wallace is on the other side of the world in Australia. Maybe our paths will cross. I know we have very similar beliefs, and that's a good thing, because we need more people talking about that. It's a great question. And I know Chris can call them down and interact with them. I love that. I love that idea. And people would say, well, how come Chris can do that, but I can't? But we all have our things, and we're all part of the puzzle.
Right.
So we bring our gifts. We don't compete. We bring our gifts, and hopefully we can raise the vibration up a little bit.
Man, we got to do this again, because I
was going to say, brother, because this went like, whoa.
Yeah. There's so many paths we could have gone down, and we will do this again. I'll talk to you. We'll set up a date. Got to do it again.
I tell you what, hold on. I'm just doing that. I got a page from my church. Someone's in the hospital, but I'll get to them. I'll get to them tomorrow. You let me know when. Give me some dates.
Okay.
And we can even go through the Bible, and like I did today, and say, people can bring their Bible. I'll just go look at that and read it and and see what you come up with, because the whole thing about research, I know we got to go, is that you have to do it for yourself. Don't listen to me. If what I say resonates, of course listen, but you got to do it for yourself, because that way you know it.
Yeah.
You know it. And you don't have to agree with me. You say, Michael, I don't know, Michael. That's okay. But at least you went for yourself to read it.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So you could, if you could, one more time, tell them where they can best find you.
Michael JS.Carter at Gmail. My fan page is Reverend Michael J. Carter on Facebook. Not to be confused, there's me again. I have more than one page. It's Michael J. Carter. Reach out to me there. But if you email me, I'll get to you. And my books are on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, but I answer all my emails.
All right. Well, once again, I definitely thank you for spending the time with us tonight. I will be reaching out to you. We will
Yeah,
further
brother,
the
let's do it again.
And it was great. So I do appreciate you. Everybody give it up for Reverend Michael Carter. And we're going to go ahead and pause for the cause for the last break, hour number 3 on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be jumping into maybe the paranormal report with Travis Mooses. So you guys just kick back and I'll be right back here. All right. Take care, Reverend Carter.
Okay, brother, don't forget to send me a link. I want to
I'm going to send you tonight.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Happy New Year, y'all.
Same to you. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. And for the final hour, we'll be jumping into the paranormal report with our paranormal reporter, Travis Mustos, in just a moment here. But first, I got to talk about the SOR fan party. We have to talk about it. It's coming. Every day that passes is a day closer, and I can't wait till we get to this event. But as I said earlier, the itinerary will go as follows. Jessica, Dave, and myself, we will be hosting 1 hour each on that Friday. Then right after the show, we'll be starting the VIP party or after party, if you want to call it that. Saturday, we will do the ghost hunt with Merle. Saturday night, we will do the UFO Skywatch with Melinda Leslie. Can't wait for that. And then Sunday, again, if you're able to stay for Sunday, we will just do whatever you guys want to do. It's up to you guys. You guys call the shot. On Sunday, come and see SOR fan favorites like Science Bob, Melinda Leslie, Merle, Lorian Fenton, Dr. Michael P. Masters, and more. Come and meet Dirty Filth, Jessica Jones. I want to meet you, so come meet me so I can meet you. Everyone is invited. We'll eat breakfast for dinner to piss Dave Scott off, because that's what we like to do. Let me know. We'll set up the itinerary. $60 a ticket. $100 ticket gets you the VIP and swag bags. Rooms have been on sale for as low as $139 per night, less than triple the price of what the rooms were in Las Vegas at the previous fan party. It is the perfect gift any time of the year. Yes, we do understand that this event happens during Mother's Day weekend, but hey, you as a mother, you as a wife, you as a young mother, daughter, niece, you guys all deserve to have this good time. So go ahead and sign up today. Email your request for tickets to info@spacedoutradio.com. We definitely cannot wait to meet you. Can't wait to see you there. So yeah, we had an awesome interview there with the Reverend Michael Carter, one of many more to happen here in the future. We will be bringing them back. We have some other guests too I know you guys resonated with. We will be bringing them back as well. I did want to point out that you guys did ask about Chris Bledsoe when we put out requests for who you wanted to see, because it's very important to me who you guys want to see. So I think what I'll do is we have reached out to Chris Bledsoe. We're kind of in talks, so hopefully we can go ahead and get Chris Bledsoe onto the show, get him locked into a date. We do have other people, though, that you have recommended that are on the list coming up soon over the next few weeks. So we want to do what you guys want to see. So I'm going to put another post out in our Facebook group regarding who we should get, people you guys want to see. And I would love if you guys did just like last time and went ahead and reacted and gave us what you had. So I do appreciate your participation there, and I want to make sure that we get the people that you want to see. Michael, boy, I don't know if I can make this one happen, man. I just don't know. For some reason, I think that that Elvis the King may not be contactable. However, I will reach out on your behalf, Michael Boyle, and we will see what we can do. We will see what we can do. So Mike Bothwell, that's awesome. So William Nighthawk would be a great guest. Okay. Definitely. So what I'll do is after this show, I'll end up posting that on the Facebook page for Spaced Out Radio. And then just like last time, you guys just hit it up and add as many names you want. I went through every entry that you guys gave me, and I made an active reach to reach out to those people. And like I said, we do have some of them on the list coming up soon that have committed. So that is awesome. And we will have many more coming. But yeah, once again, great conversation with Reverend Michael Carter. We should be jumping into this paranormal report with Travis Mustos. Let me go ahead and get this all out the way so we can bring our guy in here, make some room for the paranormal reporter. Let me go ahead and hide this here. And yeah, let me see. Let's bring in our guy, Travis Mustos. Travis, salutations, sir. How are you today?
Greetings, Tansei. Hello. How are
Man.
you? I'm doing good.
Hope you had a great week. We were, I don't know if you got into the conversation tonight, but it went pretty deep on, spirituality. I think I even asked you, this question. It was just on my mind for the last couple of weeks about how spirituality, why they're pivoting on spirituality and making that such a big talking point. And I think Reverend Carter was like the perfect person to have, because he has that intersect between his duties as a reverend, what he's learned as a reverend in the churches and knowledge on what the Bible is, and then that intersecting with the reality that we're in with these ETs visiting us. I don't know. Did you have anything specific tonight?
Oh, the interview. I really liked when you started talking about the books of Enoch and a lot of the his encounters and things like that with he's talking about the Enoch in the books, talking about the watchers mixing in hybridization with a lot of the people of ancient times and creating a lot of different beings. And I liked a lot of that. I liked a lot of that tales. And one thing that always intrigued me about the Enoch, his dream part of the books, is when he's always taken up by these crafts. They're always taking him up in clouds, and they're always taking him up in they'll pick him up when they bring him into the clouds, through lightning or through storms and things. It's always very connected to our natural elements and natural worlds. And that's just in our native world, we always connect with a lot of these elemental beings and spirits, and that a lot of times that happens. People will cross over to the spirit world through lightning, or they're able to go into the stars from a ship coming down, as a star landing and picking them up. And there's people who have told me that they've been on travels like that, and it's really awesome to hear when it's written down in the way it is in the books of Enoch. And he's talking about this crystal house that lands, and he walks up into it, and then the crystal floor is just it's all sparkling and jeweled, and then he looks up and you can see the space, and he's meeting with the beings and then, the watchers, and he's talking with them, and they're giving them all these orders and things to do and accomplish, and things to tell everyone and things. It's a wild one, and that's I'm really I do agree a lot with a lot of how they describe the crafts and ships, and just because I had experience with that myself with the cloud ones and coming over our ceremonies and stuff, and different crafts.
Yeah, that'd be cool. What I don't think we've heard about those. Well, we did. You showed the picture. No, that was the previous guest. So I don't think we did jump into the cloud ships. I don't know. What did you experience with those?
Okay, so yes. Well, I did explain the story on Dave Scott's interview one time there, last year, how many months back, but I'll explain it again very quickly. So I was in a ceremony lodge there, and it was a sweat lodge, and it was during the day ceremony. We do all of our ceremonies during the day. And when we're in there, we're in the first round there, we're doing our prayers and connecting with the universal energy of the world. And all of a sudden this, it was it was going into the second round, and all of a sudden this a spirit entered in, but it was a pink orb flying around. And it was going around us, and then finally it landed just beside me, and it was emanating. I could see it, I could feel it. But the dude who was looking at me, he said he's seen the head of the space being, the star being, and we're very pleased by that, because that was a good I should say acknowledgement that they were there for the healing and bringing forward that energy from the universe, and we were very I should say very grateful and very honored and very humbled by such presence to come and be there with us and for the healings and yeah, it was awesome. And then it went back around and back up, and it was the end of the round, and the firekeeper there, Scopios, opened the door, like for the, to bring more lava rocks in. And he's like, you should have seen it. You should have seen it. It was amazing. It was like this cloud. It came flying right over. It just like flew right over over the lodge, or the sweat lodge, and you just see this distortion pouring down, like like a heat wave when you look at the ground in the distance, kind of like that kind of yeah. He said it was just waving through the trees, going down, coming from the cloud, and he's like, that made sense to me. Like they don't even need they just use the cloud like a ship, like that.
Yeah. I've been intrigued by these cloud ships more and more. I mean, and the more and more I think about it, because I'll tell you what, when I went to go see the movie Nope, have you seen Nope?
Yeah.
So I go to see that, and I was probably like a lot of other people. I went into the movie expecting to see traditional ETs, traditional craft. But the concepts that were being shown there kind of it was so different than from what people would have expected, that a lot of people initially didn't like it because they couldn't internalize what these concepts meant. But then, just like you say, in your practice, you cloud ships or things that are known things. So I always wondered, when I had time to digest the movie myself, I had to watch it. Well, I'll tell you what I did. When I watched it the first time, I'm in the theater and the credits start rolling. And then I just sit there for a minute. I sit there for like 5 minutes because I'm like, like this is how it is. Like this was all some sort of biological ship. So the ship is the creature, and then they use clouds for cover. And I was just like, where does this connect to anything that I've ever heard within ufology? But then the more and more I look into it, I'm kind of seeing what the connections are. And even with connecting the ship in Nope as being this alive thing to a lot of the things that we're seeing, like the jellyfish UAP, like my sighting where these things weren't birds, but they appeared to move like they were alive. And it just, then you tie the whole spirituality thing into it. It has me in a place where I'm really open to any suggestion on what the purpose is for these ETs being here. So that's just kind of where my mind is at with it right now. But I thought it was pretty, intriguing that they chose to use clouds in the movie as what these beings are using for cover, or even potentially, like you said, these are their ships and they're cloaking themselves or making themselves look like clouds, whatever may have you. But then the waviness that you describe as well is something that I know a lot of people describe when it comes to actual ET encounters or ships doing things that are weird. So, it's just crazy for me because I'm on a path trying to put the puzzle together, and a lot of these pieces are falling in line, and it's a mind-blowing time for me. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I'm happy that everybody's starting to see it as well. I'm enjoying it. It's been excellent. All these ET galactic universal connections that are coming through now, and people are starting to make that connection, and it's starting to like you said, starting to make things fit together and piece together, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, definitely. And let me answer Carl Bittner. Carl Bittner wants to know, for the fourth time, Rob, please find out who is the group that performs the first song of this last break. Song title would also be nice. I can do that for you, Carl, because I know the name because I have it written down, because they are copyright striking this channel for that song. So I'm gonna tell you what the song is, but I can almost guarantee that song will be going away at some point in the near future. So it might be good for you to have, so you can put it in your catalog for sure. But I got you, Carl Bittner. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I got you. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of we talked a little bit about the jellyfish UAP, and that thing is just still. I'm just now more so. And I'm going to make this connection because I'm going to do a show on my channel, but I guess I'll just say it here. I think that are you familiar with the jetpack man? Have you heard of that story? The jetpack man that these pilots are seeing at LAX as they're coming in for landings, like what they're thinking is a guy on a jetpack at like 3,000-4,000 feet in the air.
Yeah. And then you also see like the jetpacks like the military use and stuff like that and whatnot, right? So there's always those, right, too. But
what I'm thinking is that, because if you look at the jellyfish, and someone has said this, which kind of made me think about it, but if you look at the jellyfish UAP, just its figure, its formation, it sort of looks like, I think it was a newscaster that made this point, that it kind of looks like the silhouette of a person with a jetpack. Looks like it has two legs coming down. Looks like it has this bulky back material, potentially like a jetpack. And the only reason why I'm bringing that up is because that I have been, and I don't know how you feel about the jetpack man, but the jetpack man, I've always tried to give a rational explanation to say, okay, yeah, it's a guy with a jetpack, but they'll tell you that jetpacks usually don't run for that long, for one. And then for two, because the fact that whatever this is or whoever this is taking these things up to like 3,000-4,000 feet, and then put a pin on that, and then talk about like there's a famous sighting that happened, probably within the last 5 years, that I believe happened in Mexico, where they had this thing that looked like a figure, looked like, I don't know if necessarily a person, but something with two legs that was kind of just floating across the sky. So I'm just wondering if maybe these are all related as far as just a type of craft that they have out there that's weird. It doesn't even make sense for something to appear like a jellyfish and it be something that could fly. And then on top of that, be something that might contain things that are living. So it just takes me back to wondering if these things are living things themselves. Like, are we seeing actual living extraterrestrial? Like, are these the being? Like, was the jellyfish UAP actually a biological thing that would happen to be flying through the sky that was extraterrestrial? What do you think about that?
Oh, it's just like it's like the ocean. We still discover new species all over. I feel like space is that same way. It's just we don't really get a chance to see what's all really out there. I believe there's creatures and like you're getting at, like crafts, but just natural space, like living creatures that are able to go world to world. And I think that the existence is vast out there enough for it. And just to just taking back from some of the things that I've heard, we call a lot of those kind of ones that look like animals and things like that. We just call them sky spirits, and we thought of them as, right. And some of the stars were considered that too, like the star spirits. And they were the ships, though, when a lot of our people were taking up on them, and they'd come back with their testimonies, would say that the ships, some of them were alive, that. And then others were talking about like how the suits that they were wearing were connected with the ship, and it was all connected, and it was very very unique kind of thing like that, I'm
under the impression that if and this is just speculation, obviously I don't know where these things are coming from, but to me it seems like that those apparitions or entities or figures that we're seeing, just using the jellyfish one because it's so weird, that maybe just maybe, that these are things that are getting out of the craft and are kind of just moving around. Just like if we parked somewhere and at a tourist site and got out and took the walk along the whatever, you know what I mean? And it almost seems like that's what these things are doing. Like they are coexisting with us, like going on about their daily thing, that whatever it is that they do, but kind of living with us at the same time. It's weird, and I want to make sure that I don't, and that's why I kind of just talk it through, because I don't want to try to solidify that or stamp that down to anyone as this is what it is. It's just a thought, right? And it's like, since we don't understand what these things are, we know that there's different types of them, and it's like, just the question remains for me is like, is this just another type of ET that happens to be able to fly through our sky like this?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, a lot of the Palladians, like, information I got from them, they're showing me a lot of like the reclamation type of alien ET extraterrestrial beings that are going to be coming around and helping our planet out in various ways, like from cleansing air to cleaning water and taking out radioactive wastes and different things like that. That's what I was being shown anyway, from these different kind of like blob beings that would be in like water and just like eating different kind of nuclear wastes and materials and but yeah, it's like, you know, a lot of these beings are out there and they're very unique and different, and a lot of them have different kind of purposes. Some of them are just for world care and world building kind of deal.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Like, if we traveled right now to another planet that was full of life, full of its own type of life, like, what would be the equivalent of a bird if we went there? What would be the things that we saw flying through the sky, and how would they fly? So just with that question alone, that's kind of the mindset that I'm having when I'm looking at these things. Like, are we seeing these things going on about daily business as they would on whatever planet they're from or whatever dimension they're from? Like, these are the things that fly in the sky on these other planets. And it's like, if that's the case, then that would kind of imply that either one, these things have always been flying around like this forever. They've always done it here on Earth, and we just haven't noticed them. Or potentially these things are getting out of their craft, or you know, if it's, for instance, if the UAP jellyfish thing is something that isn't from here, is the entity itself something that you would find inside of a ship, controlling a ship? Or is it something more equivalent to like a bird, or something that just goes on about its normal life without, you know, being that intelligent enough to create a ship? It's just, I don't know. I think it's compelling to think about, because I think if we found, you know, that there's a case of either these things always fly around here, they've always done it, and they have been existing with us, versus these things are now just starting to fly around, and we're starting to see these weirder things that may be from another place. Like, is that them being comfortable and now displaying themselves that way here? And is that, you know, what does that kind of mean for the next step in the contact that we might have with this extraterrestrial presence? And I know that's a lot, but it's kind of just like, I kind of just gave you a preview of what kind of goes on in my mind, man. But
it's only happening planets like within the Andromedan system, and that's where you get a lot of the friendly Palladians that want to deal with us and want to help advance us. As for what, like, it's going to be improving a lot more. It's going to be like a lot of the encounters are going to happen from within, just like how the encounters happened with Enoch. He had a lot of dreams and a lot of visions and things. But those are to prepare you for the times that are ahead, and we do actually have our face-to-face interactions and things of that nature. And yeah, that's going to be the whole deal with that. But it's great that everyone's getting this information out there and seeing it and hearing it, and yeah.
I know, man. It's just wild, right? It's wild because it's kind of like the thought process that someone, a writer or a director of a science fiction movie, would have to go through the same sort of thought processes on the characters that they're creating, and why does this character do this? Why does this character exist? And kind of that whole dynamic that they go through. But it's weird because it's actually reality that we're processing this sort of thinking in reality, and what we know is reality right now. And it blows my mind every single time to know that this is the conversation that we're having, like in real life. You know what I mean? Like with all the other things that we know that kind of distract us and go on and what we consider normal life, jobs, and just the different trivial things that we look at, it just always boggles my mind because I think about those things, obviously, because you have to, but then also to spend some of your time thinking about this other stuff. And it just like it never ceases to kind of amaze me and kind of grab me when it comes down to thinking about this stuff. So it's kind of weird, man, but it's good to have somebody to bounce it off of, man. So I appreciate you definitely being my soundboard and being able to give me some good insight on this stuff. But what do you and I don't know if I asked this, but like, where does how heavy are you into the actual paranormal side of it? Like we talked NDEs and all that the other day. How far into the actual paranormal part of this are you?
Oh, I'm right involved, dude. Like I'm right in the front line, I should say.
Okay, so man, I hate to open that up because that could go so deep. Like, what is your 10,000 view looking down perspective on everything we talked about today as far as the spirituality part of this, the fact that these things might be biological that we're seeing and not actually vessels or things of that nature? Like, what is your 10,000 foot view of those topics right there?
Wow. Yeah, like the whole view is that we're the spirituality part. It comes from a point of view of like on the level of which your vibrational energy is connecting with the universe, and throughout the universe, you know, there's higher and lower beings. A lot of times people, if they're very grounded in negative vibes and negative dwellings, or they're caught too much in the past, like it'll be very hard for them to make those connections. And but like people that are able to really let go of those old cycles and open up their I should say their heart centers and their intuition, their mind, they're able to focus that energy and connect it with the universe and actually get forward that information and make those connections with their ET counterparts and their star families and all those ancient knowledge that is waiting to be accessed by them. Also, in terms of like with the biological beings and the ships and stuff, it's going to pick up more. There's going to be so much more. And about the jellyfish one, that was just a little just come in and check out the area. I've seen like in visual psychic like visions and things. I've seen just massive planet-sized jellyfish out there in space, and I was like, huh. Like at the time, I didn't quite think of it. I just thought, oh, that's another living being out there in the universe. Like that's just like part of the natural, like that's just one of those beings that are out there, you know. And I've seen a lot of other things out there too, including like yeah, we'll get into that another time.
Yeah, what do you think? Because I know Dave has recently talked about him. You know, he's heard from a source that says that we potentially are sitting here waiting for something to show up that may not be showing up till like 2035. Like I don't know how I feel about the specific year thing. Like, a lot of people like 2027, this is the year, this is when it's supposed to happen, or in this case, 2035. Like, what do you think there's a time for, like, it, from what you've been able to gather, your experience, do you feel like there could be a time frame put on that, or do you think it's something that could happen tomorrow?
The spirit world has no time frame, and things are meant to happen in the universe like that, right? But for some of us out there, we're already connecting with a lot of the ETs and a lot of the energies out there, and a lot of different beings that are on the galactic light force. And that's been the message lately: is it's going to be happening a lot from within, and for people to make that connection. So when the time comes, they'll have their intuition and their mind in the right place, because you need to be in connection with those in order to fly the ships. I just figured I'd say that. And also too, you need to have that clear intuition and clear heart, because a lot of these beings, like it's going to shock you. Like, a lot of them are very happy, like it's beyond belief, and you're just like looking at yourself like, these beings are really happy, and I'm just like, I'm like what am I doing here on this planet? You kind of deal. It's kind of a funny thing, but yeah, it's going to pick up more for everyone out there, and I just best of luck and many blessings to those on that walk and I fill every step with joy and happiness out there in the world, and treasure every moment with family and loved ones, and yeah.
See, and I've asked myself that question: do I feel like activity is picking up, or do I feel like people are just looking and now seeing these things that have always been there? And I don't know, it would appear to me, because people look up all the time, and obviously the jellyfish UAP was something that you could only see with a certain sensor. So if it flew right over you, apparently you probably wouldn't have been able to visually see it. So maybe it is something that is here all the time. But I don't know how I feel about, I feel like, just based off of some of the sightings that I've covered, and then my own sighting, I pointed out some other sightings where there were 100 or more objects in the sky together at one time. And it feels like, and I think Richard Dolan has even said this, it feels like activity is kind of, ramping up. And then if that's the case, what is the end goal? Like, what are things ramping up towards? Is it just the fact that, okay, this is going to be the global realization that everybody knows that these things are here? Is it going to be things are ramping up because these things are wanting to kind of mobilize and kind of, position themselves? And obviously you have to look at the good and the bad when you're having that conversation, what the intents are. But it's like, the question would be, are they ramping up to do something for a specific purpose? Or is it just people are now seeing these things because they're paying it more attention? What do you think between those two?
A lot of people's frequencies and a lot of the solar energy that's been just radiating into the earth and into the deep crystals within the earth, inner earth, have been just, I guess it's been just shining into the people's souls, and they've been just raising into higher vibrational levels and able to connect with, give me a second here, guys.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, no, it's like the frequencies changed a lot since the solar flares have been just impacting our planet, right? And so a lot of us have been getting a lot more dreams and visions in those connections, and able to see that kind of stuff going on out there. And like I said, the connection is there for
so the viewers are saying, dude, quit trying to hide the cat, man. We hear the cat. We want to see the cat. Let us see.
Well,
There
he's
you guys go. There you guys go. Let us see. Cat, Travis, is that your cat? Cat, please.
yeah, there's a cat. There's a
They
black
love cats on this channel.
cat from the Matrix.
That's his name. What's the name? The Matrix.
No, his name is Smokey because he has a little. He has like a little tinge of like gray fur on him that you can kind of see on his
Oh
body.
yeah.
Yeah. So he has it. So he looks like a little smoky shadow running around in my house here. I have to get him a bell.
Yeah, see, you want them all over. See, Kitty, hi, honey cat, such a precious kitten. Hi, Smokey, I love you, says Christine. She's just going all in. She's just going all in.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It was like funny because it was like meow, 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 and you were trying to like mute. I'm like, it's all good, Travis, man. These people can't wait to see the damn cat, man. Let me see.
Yeah, he's also trying to get more food right now, so that's also his goal. But we'll get some later. He gets a midnight snack. So, well, 11:45, so he knows what's up.
And now everybody wants a kitty. Now we're talking about kitties. Let's talk about the paranormal kitties, like the one from Pet Cemetery or something like that.
Yeah, so that's another thing people have been seeing a lot of this dimensional black panther, and they say it doesn't look like a panther you'd see in the jungle. It looks like one that would be like from the Ice Age, and like they say they see it like running by or it'd be sitting on their porches and stuff, and it leaves tracks on the houses and like on the snow, but they can't. You know what I mean? Like nobody can get pictures of it or video or anything, but they say they see it, right? And so that's been coming around lately. People have been getting that, and dogs have been going wild, and animals going missing and things. But yeah.
Oh, okay. That's pretty awesome. Now, I was just talking about the cat from Pet Cemetery. I didn't know they actually had these black cats running around. I think I actually did hear about that one time. Isn't that, is that a particular part of the world where they're seeing that? I think it's England, right? Or is it's UK where they're seeing those there's like a thing, it's just like currently I think Dogman is pretty, prevalent out there, but I know during looking into that, I did read something about there being almost like black jaguar sightings, but they're like paranormal. They're not like actually there, but I guess it's a thing out there in UK right now. I wish somebody could back that up because I know somebody knows what I'm talking about out there. But it's funny you said that because that I know that's an actual thing that is happening in one part of the world. Places where you shouldn't see black cats. You know what I mean? They're seeing these big black cats.
Yeah, and that's what makes it odd. Is like it's like things have been like people have been mentioning a lot of that, like seeing that stuff like that out there and going around their places and stuff. So it's like, yeah, that's pretty interesting that this that's been an occurrence in the areas and stuff.
Yeah, okay. May backs that up, says yes, black cat sightings in UK and other places. Yeah, it's really crazy because they're talking about regular cats, they're talking about huge predator cats, you know what I mean, that they're seeing like in the city and kind of just in these random places, but then I guess they disappear. So it's, kind of almost like a paranormal element to them. And they haven't been able to describe them, but it's like a big thing in the UK specifically. Yeah, we do got to ask Dogman. Yeah, I think Dogman UK might have been who I talked to about that. I think it probably was. So, but I also read something on it. Okay, so yeah, Travis, man, hey, it's been awesome, dude. I'm totally glad you're able to come through, man. And I think we had a really great episode today. I appreciate your contribution as well to the episode. Keeping this thing flowing, man. It's always a great time. You always have great information, and I really appreciate you, man. Just want you to know that. And we got to do it again next Sunday.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. Oh,
yeah.
Wonderful evening take care, everybody out there, and I'll see you all when I see you around again.
Yep. Next week we'll be seeing you soon, man. Take care.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Travis Mustos, the paranormal reporter, because there's no other. He's the guy. It's Travis Mustos, and we do appreciate his contribution, and we do appreciate the brief appearance by Smokey, who kept really saying in the background, like, bring me on screen. That's what he was saying the whole time. And so you guys were able to help bring him to the front. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, Christine, all good. I already know. I know how this family is here. You gotta love cats. Even though I'm a dog person, but I don't have anything against cats. So we'll go with that. Okay, yeah. So we got about 10 minutes here left in the show. Not enough time to do anything like trivia, even though I know people probably want to get back into Mothman for knocking it out twice in a row and kind of being the trivia king right now, right? Okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, as Van Gogh says, she didn't like cats after she found out she was allergic at 5. Ugh. Knock on wood, I've gone my whole life without being allergic to anything that I've ever known of. Anytime doctor was like, you're allergic, was like, nope. So lucky me. I often hear people talk about allergies and things like that. I'm like, wow, I feel sorry for you guys. But yeah. So with that being said, we got a few minutes here. We can talk about, let's see. Yeah, we can talk about some of the people you guys want to see going forward. I would like to know, like I said, the last list we put together, you guys really responded to that and put together a lot of names, and I took every single name down, went ahead and started the process of reaching out to those people, and we've had a few of them on actually already, some of the ones you suggested, and we will be having on some others here in the near future. But I would like to refresh that list, and let's get some new names on there. Let's see. So Rob, is the video proven fake yet, or the Miami one? I got to look a little further into it. I mean, I'll tell you this, based on, I'm not going to use any of the video evidence that's out there right now to say that this thing was real. I would want to probably look more into the witness accounts and some of those stories, because you can kind of tell a lot of the times you can tell when somebody is full of it or not. The guy who told the story, who stated he was in the shoe store, I mean, he came across slightly believable. I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket, but this is what I will say. We know, this is what we do know, and this is why we shouldn't ever just kind of say these things are impossible. We know that things are possible. We know we have people who have had experiences with things coming into their room, like we talked with the Reverend earlier, just materializing in your room, right? What can do that? There's nothing that is from this planet that we know of that can do that, period. Just from experience living on this planet, there isn't anything we could point to that lives here too that we know of that can do things like that. So materializing here was another compelling thing. This one kind of shook me up a little bit, made me think. So they had you probably seen this lady online talking about the Miami ET incident, and she talks about the fact that the coordinates, the GPS coordinates, latitude and longitude for this Miami mall, if you take those two numbers and you just flip them around, that it takes you to Antarctica. So if you take the latitude and longitude of the Miami Mall, if you Google it right now and get the latitude, longitude, take both of those numbers, reverse them, and put them back into a Google search or a map search, then that map takes you to the middle of Antarctica. So this girl's theory was, excuse me, and I gotta say theory because I haven't proven if it's true or not, but she pretty much states that it's funny that it goes back to Antarctica because there's been rumored to be bases at Antarctica, and that these things kind of just materialize into the wrong latitude, longitude, wanting to actually materialize in Antarctica, and then because the coordinates were flipped around, materialized at a Miami Mall. I'm not saying that is any sort of truth or not. I'd say it's pretty intriguing. I'd say, it depends on if they, it would make sense that coordinates would be something that should translate across different worlds. So it would make sense that if something is navigating using coordinates, that if you were to type in your time machine that you wanted to show up at this place or that place at this particular time, you put in those coordinates and you put them in wrong, you probably would show up at the wrong place. So the whole Miami Mall thing, this girl was suggesting is that it was a mistake made by these ETs to materialize there. They didn't want to materialize there. They wanted to materialize in Antarctica. I will say that I watched someone do the coordinates and reverse them, and it does take you to Antarctica. So is that a stretch? Is she reaching kind of, with that one? Maybe. But with all the weird stuff that we know that is connected to this phenomenon, all the things that are unexplainable, it's probably one you just put in the bag and, kind of move on, but not throw it away and not say, oh, no, that's not possible. Oh, it doesn't make sense. It kind of does make sense, that explanation. Now, I don't know how many other coordinates you could reverse that would take you to Antarctica. Excuse me. I don't know if other sightings might do that for you, but for sure, the coordinates of that Miami Mall, if you reverse them in a map search, they do take you to Antarctica. Whatever that means, guys, whatever that means. But what I'll do is let's go ahead. I know it is definitely interesting, Christine. I said that and I said, wow. But that's why I said, this is what I'm saying, is that if you were done with the Miami Mall thing a long time ago, you just immediately dismissed it, then you wouldn't even listen to the lady's information where she says all the coordinates match up. You wouldn't even be around for that conversation because you've already dismissed the initial conversation and you've moved on. However, if someone within this discovery process comes forth with something compelling that adds to that story, instead of having to dig that story about in the trash can, if you just have it sitting on the counter, put to the side, it's kind of cleaner and easier for you to go to and kind of cross-reference the information. That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you to believe it. I'm not telling you not believe it. I'm just saying with any case that comes across the table, it should be given the same respect as anything else, regardless how weird or crazy it seems. You may just not have the ability to understand it at this moment. But if you just like reverse engineering, they get these crafts, they don't know what to do with them right now. They put them on a shelf. They don't throw them away and say, oh, we'll just never figure this out. They put them away for a number of years, as Bob Lazar has said. Then they open it back up and say, hey, things have changed. We know more now. We're in a different state of mind. Maybe we can figure this thing out now. And that's kind of the same thing that we should do with any of this information that comes across the table. Don't be so quick to throw it out. At the end of the day, all you're, using is some mental capacity to store the data and then kind of come back to it at a later time. Doesn't have to be that serious. So, with that being said, yeah, I do appreciate everybody joining in on that part of the conversation there. Because Paramar says, yeah, that's an interesting theory, Miss Space Out Radio. Aliens make typos too. I mean, it is a crazy theory. Interesting, very. Doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's true. But it is freaking interesting at the very least. So, all right. Let's see. Interesting. Okay. Carl Bittner, Space Out Radio. Thanks, Rob. But Paramar had just gave the name and group to me. It's still available and it sounds great. Bass really kicks on good. No, it does. Awesome song, Carl Bittner. I'm back here bumping every time we play a commercial, but yeah, they don't, they're copyright striking. Rightly so. If we shouldn't be using them, then we shouldn't do it, right? So we'll be switching over to commercials. But I do want to go ahead and stop and thank the super chatter for tonight, Shaq Valet. Do appreciate you, and I do appreciate everyone else here, right? We had a great show today. I'm really happy with the outcome of today's show. I've been waiting for a while to talk to Reverend Michael Carter. And as you saw earlier, we will be doing this again. We will be. We have a few other guests that we're going to end up lining up too. But I'm just so glad you guys came out and hung out with me tonight. So with that being said, to all you guys are all space travelers, right? So go ahead, consider taking the next step. Join that club. Join the Space Travelers Club for as little as five beans, $5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By joining our Patreon, we appreciate your support. To all of our viewers all across the globe, thank you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best and we will continue to do for 2024. And what is that, guys? We own the night. Have a great rest of have a great upcoming week. Make sure to be here tomorrow with Dave Scott at 9 p.m. Pacific. And he's going to be kicking off the week. And I will see you next weekend. So you guys have a great one and you all take care.